We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk films past, present, and future. I'm Sherman Trey White of Podcast Media, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend. You're gonna need a bigger boat because it's Bandit Incorporated.
What? Hello, everyone. Welcome
Alright.
to this wonderful futuristic year of 2015. I rode my hoverboard all the way to get here, and it didn't work very well because those things are not practical at all.
No,
you could only ride on metal. But anyway,
have you
How are you,
seen
Trey?
the meme? Oh, I'm great. I saw some really great movies this weekend for the first time.
Yeah.
So I saw this picture of Marty McFly holding a newspaper, and he's like, "Doc, Star Wars comes out in a couple months. We gotta wait a bit longer." And I was like, "Great." So yeah.
Oh yeah, so he jumped all the way forward to see the next good Star Wars movie. Oh,
Yeah,
I
like
didn't
he
realize
landed.
that.
He's just like, "Hey Doc, there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. We gotta wait. let's wait a bit longer."
It'd be like that Simpsons episode where like Bart goes forward in time, and like as he's walking to the time machine, he walks past like a protester with a sign saying, "Get out of the US out of the Middle East," and then he goes back to like 1970, and there's still a protester with the same sign. It's like a movie version of that, you know. Now playing Star Wars,
yeah.
you go forward. Now playing Star Wars.
Star Wars, the good one.
Just before we get started, I had a quick announcement I wanted to make to all of our listeners. I wanted to ask for all our listeners to give us feedback and advice for the show, because coming from the YouTube world, you and I, Trey, we're both used to having the comment section there immediately, so you can automatically get feedback. It's harder to do with a podcast because people they can write reviews on iTunes, but it's kind of tricky. It's like not as easy to do. So I'd like to encourage people to either just on my Facebook or my Twitter or emailing me at banditincorporated@gmail.com. Just give us an idea of like the stuff that you like about the show, some of the stuff you don't like about the show. I often worry, like we've got like an hour and a half shows, but then other ones go for like 2.5. Is that too long, or do you guys not mind? So let us know so we can craft the show more to give you guys what you enjoy. So
yeah. Oh, also, and Bandit, did you post the Facebook and Twitter things for listener questions?
Not. I'll do that right now.
That's something that we should definitely do because we used all the questions from the last couple of times here.
Okay, so there we go. I just put the questions out there.
Great.
Asking everyone. So hopefully by the time we get
I'm excited
to that,
I'm excited
we'll
for
have
the two questions we're gonna have.
Woo! All right, awesome.
And those two will be very special. Okay, so Bandit, let's get into the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
Movie news. Excellent.
Yes, movie news. All right, so not a lot of movie news today. Let's start with the smaller stuff first. For starters, Doug Liman, director of movies like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Born Identity, and Jumper, and Edge of Tomorrow, which is a great movie, he is in talks, being the head in talks, along with Shane Black, to direct the Gambit movie. So, Bandit, your thought on Doug Liman and or Shane Black?
Wow. You know what?
Yeah.
It's like like the movies you mentioned there, like it's kind of 50-50. Like some are good, some are bad, but yeah, like even the ones that are bad have a Gambit style quirkiness to them, so that could actually be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
like
know,
I've mentioned before, one of my favorite movies that most people didn't really care that much about was Jumper.
Right.
The teleporting thing with Anakin Skywalker in it. Hayden Christensen, sorry.
For someone that hates sand, he spends a lot of time in that desert. I don't know what I'm going to say.
He does spend a lot of time in the desert. But yeah, like that movie had a thing of like, oh, you're a freak because you could do this thing. So that would fit in well with Gambit because he's a mutant and his powers are pretty extraordinary. Because from my understanding in the comics is like, at least some versions of Gambit, he's like so powerful that he could like rip the whole planet in half if he's not careful.
That's true, yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty freaky. So, so no, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. What do you think? You happy with that?
Oh yeah, like Doug Liman, like movies. And we're gonna get to a movie that I saw this past weekend that really just like made me feel awesome. But like I remember when I saw Jumper at home, and I thought that was a pretty cool movie. I remember seeing Mr. and Mrs. Smith when I was really little, like 4 or 5. And I was like, oh yeah, I was like that was funny. I didn't know what the word. I don't want to say that word on here. I didn't know what certain words meant, but I thought it was cool action.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to see any of the Bourne movies, so that's on my list of movies I need to see.
Wow, really? You haven't seen any of them?
I saw the Jeremy Renner one, but that's it. That's just because my friends wanted to see it. I was like, okay,
yeah.
I'll see Bourne.
What did you think of that one without having any of the previous Matt Damon ones?
I thought it was just a cool on the run kind of action movie.
Yeah.
Like I thought there was nothing special about it, but it was just a cool movie to sit down and watch with your friends is all.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where if you don't have the previous movies, you're just like, yeah, it's fine. But then when you watch it and you've like enjoyed the other one so much, you're like, oh, it's not the same.
Yeah, so I need to go back and watch those Bourne movies. But Edge of Tomorrow really like it sits with you for a while, and it was one of my favorites of last year. I love Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen Edge of Tomorrow, I won't give anything away here. But if you have not seen Edge of Tomorrow, it's great. It's Tom Cruise. It's basically Groundhog Day meets Aliens, and it's so great. So he knows how to make things fun, but have the fun be kind of not an afterthought, but be kind of a side effect of good filmmaking, which most fun movies these days don't really know how to do.
Yeah.
He's one of those directors that can make a fun movie.
It's a fantastic movie, and even if you're listening going, oh, I don't really like Tom Cruise, see it because you get to see him die over and over and over.
In hilarious
ways.
Sometimes it's when he howls like a little puppy. Some days it's good.
I like there's that one bit where he's like running the hero pose through the battlefield, and he's like, dun, 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 dun. This truck just comes and goes, whoosh, and just cleans him up, and the music just cuts.
but if you think that gets repetitive, they also they edited it well enough, and they used Doug Liman's style well enough to that it feels fresh almost every time he dies. It feels like they find a new way to keep you entertained for really that first hour and a half when he just keeps dying and dying.
Yeah.
But to exact on the other rumor of Shane, God bless you. To exact on the other rumor with Shane Black, I do have some trepidations. Look, Shane Black is a great director. He's a great filmmaker, great writer. Lethal Weapon, Predator, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I thought all great
Iron Man
movies.
3.
I was about to get to Iron Man 4. Iron Man 4 is my only problem because, and as you guys may not know, I call Iron Man 3 Iron Man 4 because the Avengers was basically Iron Man 3 featuring the Hulk and starring Loki.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So, thank Hizzy for that, by the way. And I think Shane Black will not want to make a Gambit movie. He'll want to make Gambit a Shane Black movie, and I don't want to see that. I want to see him keep the context of that character and tell a superhero movie and not make it a buddy cop film set at Christmas. I don't.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
Hey, it could be worse. It could be Colin Trevorrow, who directed your favorite movie of all time, Jurassic World. That's one of the news, isn't it? I was trying to do a segue for you.
And they gave him Star Wars. Matt Damon, they gave him Star Wars.
Yeah. Look, it's like was that one of the news? I jumped ahead.
What?
Was that one of the news you were going to say? The Colin Trevorrow's got a Star Wars
directing
movie?
episode? No, that's been around since like D23.
Sure.
But speaking
I don't
of
hate
Star,
Jurassic World as much as you do, but I do agree. Like in terms of directing, like that movie, you were just like, yeah, whatever. Like anybody could have made that.
Exactly.
There's
I don't
nothing
want someone
special about him.
Exactly. And think about it. J.J. Abrams. Granted, he's working under the studio system. He has Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger and everyone at Disney Lucasfilm on looking down his shoulder, but he's using those limitations and still making it look like a J.J. Abrams movie.
Yeah.
Colin Trevorrow does not have a style. We do not know what a Colin Trevorrow movie looks like, and they're giving him a Star Wars movie. They're giving him. We have yet to see a third Star Wars film in a trilogy that has been amazing. You can argue Return of the Jedi, but I think that Return of the Jedi is so inferior to the previous two movies. And Revenge of the Sith, while the best of the prequels, is not a great movie. So you're giving this man the first ever you giving this man a shot at making the first ever great third film in a Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
And
Episode 8. That's huge. Like, I'm surprised. Like, why don't they give him one of the smaller anthology movies?
9. It's
episode 8.
9. It's episode 9.
Episode 9. Oh, wow. Okay.
Sorry.
So that could even be the conclusion of this new trilogy?
Yeah, it's going to be...
That's kind of even worse.
It's the conclusion of the trilogy. They're giving Ryan Johnson, who did Looper, episode 8, which is I'm so stoked for, but they're giving this guy episode 9.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Exactly,
see, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, see, like Ryan Johnson, like Looper, stylistic, cool, intense,
he
sci-fi.
could make another Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly my point. And oh my gosh.
Well, I think if they're putting him in episode 9, you won't agree, but I can understand their thinking a bit more, because maybe they're thinking, Jurassic World was kind of like an unofficial finale for the first trilogy kind of thing, but it still brought something new, so they're hoping he'd do that in episode 9, so it kind of makes sense.
But did Jurassic World bring anything new to the franchise, though? Did it really? Because you can argue Jurassic World was just Jurassic Park with more expensive looking effects.
Yeah.
Like that's really all it was. Like,
well, I mean, it did bring new things, but it didn't show enough of the new things, like the genetically engineered dinosaurs.
Or the raptor fight, or the water dinosaur. All good ideas, but was any of that felt like Colin Trevorrow, or did any? You can, and so everyone.
I don't know what.
Exactly. I don't know what a Colin Trevorrow movie looks like, so I'm gonna, because he has another movie coming out before Jurassic World 2, because he's not directing it. So I want to see that next movie that he's doing, because I want to see what is Colin Trevorrow's style. J.J. Abrams, it's fast, it's frenetic, it's intense. Ryan Johnson, it's slow, it's methodical, but it's still intense. So what is Colin Trevorrow's style? Is it just mooching off other famous directors' styles? Because Jurassic World was just lesser Steven Spielberg. So it just.
But I guess when you look at it as 7 through 9 in the framework of a trilogy, the directors you'd pick, like episode 7, you need someone that produces something that's good and is popular with the masses. That's J.J. Abrams. Episode 8, you're in the middle, so you can experiment a bit more, take a few risks. You get the Looper director. What was his name?
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson. He's that kind of guy. He's shown that with Looper. Episode 9, finales in a trilogy, usually a good time to play it safe but still do good work. That's Colin Trevorrow, basically, isn't it? He plays it safe.
I'm not sure if you want to say it. I'm not sure if you want to play it safe with the trilogy, but you do have the shot to make this...
just with the ending.
Well,
yeah, with the last one, it's not the time to do really crazy stuff. You need to wrap everything up.
But it is the shot. It is the one to say that it's like the Harry Potter franchise. I don't know how many Harry Potter films you may have seen, but for anyone who has seen the Deathly Hallows, both Part 1 and Part 2, that is the amalgamation of the entire Harry Potter franchise, but they still managed to take this director and they let him do what he wants to do, and they made this huge bombastic finale that sticks out in the Harry Potter franchise. When people mention the best Harry Potter movies, they say Deathly Hallows Part 2. They say that among the other ones. And so episode 9 has to be, because think of it, George Lucas had the idea for episode 8 or 7 through 9 back in the 80s. Like, if you recall, he talked about this with Mark Hamill, like, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But he said it'd have to happen in the 2000s whenever he was older. So this technically speaking, this is the last movie that was ever planned out by George Lucas, ever. And you're giving it to the guy that kind of did a Spielberg movie. Kind of.
Yeah.
Do you see why I'm angry? Do you see why I'm angry?
Yeah, I do. And at the very least, episode 9 is going to need to have a good, genuine, emotional punch. And one thing we can learn from Jurassic World, he's not really good at realistic emotions, realistic
He's not good at character.
Realistic
He's not good
connections. That's not what he does. He makes stereotypes or caricatures.
Yes.
Or stereotypes of stereotypes.
God, I can't look. I'm not saying Colin Trevorrow is not a terrible director. He's not. There were some really cool action scenes in Jurassic World.
You're not saying he's not a terrible director?
Sorry,
I'm
not
saying
saying
he is a terrible director.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm also racist, apparently. I'm not saying that he's a terrible director. I'm saying that we have yet to see that this director can provide. Imagine if they got like Jon Favreau to do episode 9. Yeah. If they got somebody like that, if they got hey, this won't happen, but if they got like a Spielberg, or if they got a not his, what's his face, Doug Liman to do, like someone who can put out great content, and you can see it and be like, that's a Doug Liman movie, that's a Jon Favreau movie, and we need to move on. We need to move on.
Before we change to the next news, I have some kind of news, which is...
Okay.
I know you saw the video on my channel. We talked about it on the podcast last week, about in a poster there looks like there's a new Death Star there.
Oh, yes.
I did a video on that, and what was interesting is I think something like the third or fourth comment, someone said, no, this isn't a theory, this is real, and posted a link to the official StarWars.com website, and I clicked on it and it took me to the page of Starkiller Base, and it said right there, a base that houses a super weapon capable of destroying entire galaxies.
Okay.
So it's confirmed there is essentially a new Death Star,
well,
and it does blow up entire solar systems, not galaxies.
Let's
it's on StarWars.com. It's official.
Well, now what we do know is that it is built into a planet, because that's in the trailer. We're gonna get to the trailer.
Yes, technically it's not a Death Star because it's on a planet. It's not floating through the air. I get it, but it's a Death Star. Basically.
It's not a Death Star.
It's another
definitely
Death Star.
not a Death Star.
It basically does the same thing as a Death Star, only bigger.
And if it is, why is that such a bad thing? Why is that such a terrible thing?
No, it's not a terrible thing. It just shows a lack of imagination and a lack of writing, a lack of creativity, and too much emphasis on nostalgia. And a lack of creativity and too much nostalgia are the only two things that can kill this. So it's troubling. It's troubling.
So you're saying the fact that they said, you know what, we're not just gonna make another Death Star. Instead, we're gonna change it up. We're gonna have it built into a planet, and we're gonna have it look different. We're gonna have it do a different thing on a bigger scale. But because it blows something up, it has to be a Death Star.
I'd say
that's what you're telling me.
Well, basically, yeah. Because
how
about this? It's like, how about instead of taking the same idea that we've already used 2 times, 3 times if you count some of the stuff that happened in Clone Wars.
Yes.
How about instead of taking the same thing and doing it again but in a slightly different way, how about, oh my god, you actually come up with something new. Wow, like what an amazing idea. We come up with a new reason for, you don't need a super weapon in Star Wars. See, I'm ranting, but look,
you're still seeing the movie.
Yeah, of course I'll see it. I mean, I'm still going to see Transformers. Doesn't mean I like it.
I think you're jumping to conclusions. I think you're being brash.
So you don't think it's going to blow up entire galaxies, even though it says so on the official website?
You're being obtuse, sir. You're being obtuse.
No, but the reason I bring it up is because if you look at the comment section for that video, it's a very divisive issue. It's like, half the people like you are like, I don't mind because it's an homage to the old stuff, but it's in a new style. And the other half...
Exactly.
Other half are like me, which are like, I hate this. Why don't you just come up with a new idea? So, but based off how polarizing that is, I think this could be the issue that will either make or break the movie, depending on how it's done. Depending on how it's done. If it's done badly, people are going to say it's Star Trek Into Darkness because of this. Look at the comments for yourself. I think if that's a little picture of what's going to happen
I believe you.
On big scale.
If The Force Awakens is broken down by the fact that they built something that blows something up which resembles the Death Star, if that's what kills this movie, I'm going to lose all faith in every Star Wars fan that has been praising everything Lucasfilm has been doing with this movie since the cast was announced back in April of 2014. And if suddenly, because one of the MacGuffins of the movie that's going to focus more on the characters anyways, it is something that blows something up, which is not just planets but actual solar system, which is awesome. And because it happens to do something that the Death Star kind of did.
For one thing.
Excuse me?
It's kind of stupid that it blows up entire solar systems.
You think so?
Yeah, but look, you don't need a MacGuffin like that. You don't need a super weapon. Okay. Empire Strikes Back does not have a Death Star, and it's the best Star Wars movie ever made.
That's because it's doing with the effects of what happened in New Hope.
Yeah, no, it's because it focuses on the characters, okay?
New Hope focuses on the characters,
Yes.
but it has the Death Star.
Yeah, but that was the first time it was done. It was fine.
But my point is
Gary
that
Kurtz was the
Empire...
producer on Star Wars. He was the... Sorry, I interrupted you again. I know everyone hates it when I do that.
Fine. But,
Sorry.
But your fans do hate that.
Yeah, they do. I apologize. So continue
Listen,
what you're saying.
I don't care. I don't care. No, I'm just saying, like, Empire Strikes Back, you know, the only reason it didn't have a Death Star is because it was just them dealing with the fact that they blew up the Death Star. You know, I felt, you know, if it was I'm sure that if it was a continuation, if it was like a new adventure in many ways of the Star Wars saga, then I'm sure, just like Return of the Jedi, I'm sure there would have been another Death Star. Because that's what, and they did that in Return of the Jedi, but, you know, so
Yeah.
that's just,
But like
I don't want this to kill The Force Awakens.
No, well, that's why I say it depends on how they handle it. You know, like if it's just kind of something that's there, but it's not a real big part of the story, it's mostly focusing on characters, I think people will be fine with it. But if they make it so central in the movie, then I think we'll get a lot of the responses like, you know, me who don't like it. And like, for example, like in the original trilogy, Gary Kurtz was the producer throughout Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope. And when you go back and look at some of the stuff he says, you can tell that he was really the sensible voice of reason who was able to balance out all of the dumbness from George Lucas. And you could see he's really the reason. He's the one who kept that ship afloat.
Which is why I don't give George Lucas credit for New Hope anymore.
But he didn't bother to come on for Return of the Jedi because he said, you know, doing another attack on another Death Star didn't seem particularly interesting or creative. And that was Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
It's been 30 years now.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, anyway.
I think it makes sense in the story, though. But we talked about that last week.
Yeah,
okay.
I know it makes sense in the story. Yeah, but anyway.
We need to move on.
Sorry.
I don't want to be rude, but we need to.
No, that's fine. That's why you're the host.
Okay.
It's your job.
Thank you. Okay, so last week, arguably less than 24 hours after we finished recording last week's episode, the official trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens dropped. And I won't lie, Bandit, I cried like a little baby because it's awesome and it's Star Wars. And I was very mad because I couldn't get my tickets on Thursday night because they said, and I quote, the official tickets for Star Wars The Force Awakens will release when the official final trailer is released during Monday Night Football, which was at halftime. So I was sitting there at halftime, or I was sitting there at 6 o'clock waiting for the game to start or whatever with my phone open ready to get those tickets. And then out of nowhere, I get tweets like, "Hey man, did you get the tickets yet?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I find out that the tickets went on sale like 2-3 hours early for The Force Awakens, which means that
there'd be none left once the trailer came out.
Exactly my point. Which means that I was sitting there scouring, making sure that trailer wasn't going to come on. While I'm sitting here trying to refresh. First of all, I'm at a place that doesn't have Wi-Fi. First of all, so that's a slump to get over by itself.
Yeah.
And so I'm refreshing the page and nothing's happening. The site it wasn't like I didn't go on Fandango or anything like that. I went on the actual website of my theater chain where I live, and it was crashing. It was slowing down. It was not loading. And I was very, very upset. And so by the time I got to Thursday night, all that was left was the first row, and I'm not seeing an IMAX movie in the front row. I'm not doing that. So I settled for Friday night, 7 o'clock in IMAX on December 18th. So Lucasfilm, you have angered me a little bit, but that's okay because you released one heck. Have you got your tickets yet, Bandit?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't get angry at me, but I got my tickets. You know how I got my tickets?
How? You went to the movie? You actually went to the theater?
Yeah, when I went to see Bridge of Spies, I got my ticket.
Yeah.
I turned around to walk away, and I thought, I'll just ask. I said, "Hey, are you selling tickets for Star Wars at the midnight showing?" And she's like, "Yeah,
That's
you want to get
amazing.
one?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
That's amazing.
So
That's
just got
incredible.
one.
That's
I called
incredible.
I called all my friends. I was like, "Hey, do you want to come see it at midnight?" And they're all like, "Midnight? Nah, I can't be bothered." And I was like, "You are all terrible. I hate you all."
Do you guys have midnight showings still there, or do you have some 7 o'clock ones?
We do, but they're not as big of a deal as.
Okay.
You know, everything's a bigger deal in America with movies. Yeah, people cheer,
Okay.
people get dressed up. Here, everyone's boring. Nobody does that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I
yeah.
should dress
so
up
I
as
was.
Darth Vader and go there. Just
You will
me
get arrested.
alone, you know.
You will get arrested, or people want to take pictures with you. One of the two is going to happen. Oh, we got a runner here, Darth Vader. He's over here thinking he's got the Force, and then they're going to take you.
Yeah, or the security guards will be like whispering into their walkie-talkies, "Bomb scare, bomb scare." I'm pretty sure he's got a bomb underneath that outfit.
Move along, and then you're just like, "It's just my asthma. It's just my asthma." But that's amazing that you can just go see Bridge of Spies and be like, can I get tickets for Star Wars? And they're just like,
yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, sure.
They're like,
and
where would you
I'm
like to sit?
over here in
I was
America,
like, put me on the
I'm like,
aisle because I don't want to sit in the middle if I'm there by myself with all people around
we've got aisle seats. Me and my friend Christian, we got seats on the side and towards the middle, which I'm so excited. But point being, that Monday the trailer released. Bandit, even though you've done a couple of videos on it, your thoughts on the trailer?
I loved it.
Yeah,
I really loved it.
It's incredible. Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't even get angry about the Death Star thing when I was watching it because I was just like,
thank you.
It's great.
Thank you. Okay, so I gotta ask. Okay, what is your favorite shot of the trailer?
I think. Oh wow, that's so hard to do.
Because I've got it played here right now. So right in front of me. Yes.
Well, I don't know if it's favorite shot, but I like the bit when Kylo Ren was talking to the Vader mask thing.
Oh, okay.
It's funny because a lot of people are arguing he wasn't talking to Vader because Vader's dead, and it's like, no, obviously. I think it's, it's like in movies when someone talks to a tombstone. They don't actually think they're there. They're just talking.
Hold on, can we? I'm sorry, I don't mean to divert again, but can we talk about some? There have been a couple of stupid. I don't want to swear. There have been a couple of stupid effing rumors that have gotten on my gosh darn nerves.
Gotten on your beef shank nerves. That's your.
So on gotten this is some beef shank going on. And you can put this on the channel.
Let me just ask: is that because when I did just so everyone knows, we did a rant about Fear the Walking Dead, and he said. Trey, you said, I wasn't sure whether it was B Shank or Beef Shank. Mm-hmm. Was it B Shank?
It's B Shank, but Beef Shank sounds funnier.
Because I couldn't find an image to represent Beef Shank, so I used Beef Shank whenever you said it. So that could be your swear word from now on.
Yeah, well,
that's my Beef Shank.
Well, because I had a science teacher back in 8th grade, and she would always write BS on my papers because she wanted me to be more specific in my writing. She'd always write BS on my papers. And so I said, what does BS stand for? I'm like, is it stand for like B shank or something? She's like, no, it stands for be specific. So I've always used a B shank or beef shank, I guess, as a substitute for swear words when I'm talking to an older figure or live on a podcast like this.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like swearing online.
Are you trying to say that I'm an older figure?
Well, you are.
I am, yeah.
You are.
I don't feel old. My back.
You throw out my back. You don't feel as you sip your coffee. I don't feel old. Okay, no, but can we talk about the stupid rumor that Luke is Kylo Ren and how ridiculously idiotic that is? First of all, Adam Driver is confirmed. We've seen his face.
Yeah, they've shown him, and in the trailer you can see the bit where they're in the woods and he goes to attack John Boyega. He's got his helmet off. You can see from the hair.
Oh my god, he looks like Jon Snow.
Yeah, he looks like Jon Snow. Yeah, it's definitely him. But mind you, if this was all amazing smoke and mirrors from J.J. Abrams, and he takes off the helmet, and it's Luke Skywalker.
I'd be so pissed.
That would be. I would love it. That'd be a cool twist.
I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad because
why?
Because then you've just
surprised you with an amazing
marketing
twist?
campaign. That you just ruined your marketing campaign.
I think the marketing campaign's
think
doing
about
all right, mate.
Huh?
I think the marketing campaign is doing just fine.
No, but it's doing fine now. But if you go, okay, think about it. Okay, so we had no idea how terrible Anakin Skywalker as a kid was going to be in Phantom Menace. We had feelings, but we had no idea how bad Jar Jar Binks was going to be.
Yeah.
So now you've introduced one of the first kind of, you can argue, biggish thing from The Force Awakens that we ever got was Kylo Ren walking in that forest, igniting his lightsaber. That was the thing that stood out most, besides the Falcon, in that first teaser. So you're telling me that you spent... I have the Entertainment Weekly cover of Kylo Ren on my wall next to my stormtroopers. And so you're telling me that after all this buildup, after all this guessing of who Kylo Ren is, after casting Adam Driver, a great actor, after all that, you're telling me, A, you want to waste Adam Driver, and you want to blow all your marketing by saying, no, he's just Luke Skywalker. You're like, where's Luke Skywalker? Oh, he's underneath the mask.
Would you like it if he removes the Kylo Ren helmet and it's Luke Skywalker and he looks at the camera, he looks at the audience, and then it cuts and you see Luke like waking up going,
I'd probably walk out the theater.
No, but it'd be like his face in Vader's mask. What if he had a vision and they did a fake out?
That's the worst part of it.
He had a vision that Kylo Ren is his nephew or whatever. Come on, that's a clever kind of twist.
That's the worst part of Empire Strikes Back is when he goes into that cave. I hate that scene.
You take that back immediately. If you don't understand that, you understand nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing.
Oh, you know nothing, Jon Snow. No, listen,
that bit where his face is revealed. That's probably one of the best part in any movie ever.
It's so weird and David Lynchy. It doesn't fit into the rest of the movie. Yeah, I don't think so.
It's foreshadowing that Vader is going to be his father, and it's a reflection that there's a darkness inside him, which we see later in Return to the Jedi. It makes perfect sense, and it's a great metaphor in like, what's in there? Only what you take with you. See?
Listen, we're giving
this great. It's very mythological.
We need to stop giving... I'm listening.
I don't know how you can say that scene's terrible. Anyway,
we need to stop giving this rumor validity by stop talking about it. Did you hear about the rumor with Batman and Batman v Superman?
No. What about it?
Apparently, according to movie pilots, who's released all these rumors, by the way, which have gained traction, by the way, which is ridiculous. According to the rumor, Ben Affleck is actually playing. Playing Slade Wilson. Yes.
Now, just for anyone who doesn't know who that is, Slade Wilson in the comics is a character called Deathstroke.
Yes.
And he's basically a mercenary with Batman-level skills. He's called Deathstroke. And he and Batman have a bit of a history together. Yeah. But he's one of the most popular characters that hasn't been in a movie yet, I would say.
Yeah. For all you guys that are Teen Titan fans, he was also Slade in Teen Titans. If you guys watched that show back in the day, just to add some more context to, you guys might not know who he is. And then that Christian Bale is going to show up at the end of the movie as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it's complete nonsense.
First of all, why would Ben Affleck sign to direct and write the Batman movie if he's not going to be in it?
Yeah, and why would they sign Ben Affleck to play more Batman if he's not Bruce Wayne?
Exactly. And why would how did Christian Bale get on set without people knowing?
Christian Bale has said repeatedly and publicly that he would not come back to do Batman no matter how much they paid him, and he's moved on.
Unless Nolan came back. That was the only reason he'd come back. Unless Nolan came back to do that.
And
which Nolan won't do.
Nah, he's moved on too. They've all moved on.
Exactly.
And besides, even though age-wise, if you wanted to do an old Batman, Christian Bale could probably, fit that profile a bit better than Ben Affleck.
Maybe.
I mean, Ben Affleck, they had to dye his hair grey to make him look older. Like, Christian Bale's getting pretty old now.
Well, Christian Bale still looks great. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. You watch some close-ups. He's near 50 now. Yeah, he's getting pretty old. Yeah, but anyway.
He's only 41 to keep some context.
Really?
Yes, he's only 41.
Okay.
And then Ben Affleck keeps him awesome. Ben Affleck, my boy, is 43. So.
Oh, are you kidding me? Wow, he looks older than that. But anyway. Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Star Wars.
But no, on that thing before we move on is as basically there's no way that whole fan theory. It's very elaborate. We won't waste time going into it. J-Raw did a video on it, but it's not possible for all those reasons we mentioned of getting actors, but it's also not possible because that theory also presupposes the one that Joker is actually one of the former Robins who's turned evil.
I hate that so much.
So if this theory was true, not only would the Joker that we've been shown not be the real Joker, but the Batman we've been shown is not the real Batman. And there's no way they'd do two twists like that in one movie. It's way too confusing For even
But it's,
people who
it's
know
also
all
the
these
start
things.
of their universe. They wouldn't do that at the start of their universe.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
Right?
You don't do
No.
a fake Batman at the very beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, as much as I would love to find out that Ben Affleck is actually not playing Batman, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, he'll be adequate. I'm sure he'll be adequate.
You like Terminator Genesis? Actually, you know what? I'm stepping out. I don't want to. Let's not do this now.
I'm putting that video together as well.
Are you?
For everyone,
Okay.
I cut it out of last week's podcast, but we had about a 25-minute long argument about Terminator Genesis, and I'm going to put that up on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, good.
So you can only hear it
because
there because I cut it out, because if I'd included it, the podcast would have been 3 hours long.
Yes. And I'm warning you, yes, we talk over each other a lot. So
We do.
unless you don't want to hear that, don't watch it. So are we good talking about the trailer? Do you want to talk about the trailer anymore? Well, I never got to see my favorite shot.
Oh,
So
yes.
we can go back to that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what was your favorite shot or moment?
Well, my favorite shot of the trailer, it's probably just because it's the shot that reminds me of my either first or second favorite scene from all of Star Wars history. It's the shot where we see Rey walking with her staff in the sand. We see it from behind, and we see BB-8 rolling up beside her, and just the sand dune of Jakku. Yeah, of Jakku. And because when I first saw that shot, I'm like, that looks like New Hope. That is classic. That is literally Star Wars. That shot reminded me so much because I'm actually working on a video of my top 10 Star Wars scenes, and I'm not going to give anything away, but that might be number one.
So I guess
Point
it's
being,
not the Vader in the Luke in the Vader mask moment.
No, that's definitely going. That's going to my other list. Point being, that shot, that might be the one shot that has convinced me that J.J. Abrams knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Out of everything that we have seen, everything he said, he's like, everything about that shot works. First of all, they're in an actual desert. They're using an actual droid. They have that staff, which I still horrifically believe that Darth Plagueis' staff. I cannot wait for that reveal, by the way. And to think, Have you not heard that rumor?
I've heard a lot of rumors about Darth Plagueis might be in it.
Yeah. Well, if you guys don't know, Darth Plagueis was Sidious's or Emperor Palpatine's master.
Yeah.
Basically, and he was originally from the expanded universe, and he's basically the Sith Lord that learned how to cheat death. And he wasn't canon until Revenge of the Sith when
Sidious
Palpatine
tells
mentioned
the story
him.
about
Excuse me.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's canon,
I
which
read
means
the
that
Darth Plagueis book too, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but
Yeah.
I
It's
know
really
I've
good.
read things
Highly
on
recommend it.
Yes.
A lot of people consider that one of the best expanded universe books.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll have to check it out. And so that's his staff. That's rumors that's Darth Plagueis' staff. And even when Daisy Ridley has been asked in an interview about it, and she says nothing. And they've been asked about it multiple times, and they have said nothing. So I'm pretty sure that's Plagueis' staff.
Oh,
but that being said, this shot really encapsulates what Star Wars is, and it's it's the story of the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
And this girl, I'm thinking that more and more this is going to be Luke Skywalker's kid, and I'm so excited to see where they go with this. I really can't wait. That's my favorite shot of the whole trailer.
You know what's interesting for our listeners out there? If you go and you Google Anakin's father, because if you want to cast your mind back to Phantom Menace, which most of us don't, he was covered as an immaculate conception there, and then later on, Sidious mentions that Plagueis knew how to manipulate midichlorians to actually create life. So a lot of people think that that's how Anakin was born, which would make Darth Plagueis Anakin's father, Luke's grandfather, and Rey's great-grandfather.
Oh my god!
Which means if we see him or Vader as Force Ghost, we could have 4 generations of Skywalkers in the same movie, which would be amazing.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
And you know what else?
Kylo Ren's got Vader's mask.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
But you know what else? That would also mean that Plagueis is like the patriarch of the whole Skywalker family. He's the one who started it all. He's the patriarch of all the Skywalkers, really.
He's the Tyrant. He's the Tywin Lannister.
Yes.
Oh my god.
He's the Tywin Lannister.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm gonna make a video on that too, so you can't steal that idea.
On what?
Just about why, I don't know what I'll call it. I'll call it something like why Darth Plagueis should be in the movie or whatever. Yeah.
Oh man. All right.
Because I talked to one of my other videos. Maybe that's what Kylo Ren wants to do when he says to Vader's mask, "I'll finish what you started." Because Vader wanted Luke to join him in the dark side, so I said maybe that's what Kylo Ren wants to do. He wants to get all the Skywalkers together with him in the dark side.
Wow,
So,
that'd be incredible. Oh, so my guess is I think Supreme Leader Snoke is Darth Plagueis. That's just my thought, just because.
But he'd have to be a Force ghost, wouldn't he? Because Sidious killed him in his sleep.
Well, yes, but remember that he said that Plagueis was the one who knew how to cheat death.
Yeah.
So there could be a way that he figured out how to stay alive even after death, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a Force ghost.
I should probably specify in the Darth Plagueis book, which starts with Darth Plagueis killing his master and ends with Sidious killing Darth Plagueis, which happened about somewhere in the middle of the Phantom Menace movie. So Plagueis was around there, like the bit when Qui-Gon sort of arrives on Coruscant and walks out, and he's got Anakin with him. Plagueis was like on the other side of that big landing area. So and he saw Anakin and got like a vision of his future and all that stuff. So, but in the Plagueis book, the way that he cheats death is he can resurrect someone else. It's never actually suggested that he knows how to do that for himself. Okay. Like, because he captures like some guy, whatever, and he like kills him and then brings him back to life, and kills him and brings him back to life, and like sort of uses him to experiment. So, but it's never really said that he knows how to do that. But he certainly could.
Maybe he could take another form and take over that body or something. I don't know. I don't want to. I think that they wouldn't use Plagueis' staff just as a thing to use. Yeah. I don't think. I think JJ's too big of a nerd.
And it is a bit weird though that Rey would have, if she is a Skywalker, that she would have the staff of a Sith Lord, unless she doesn't know it's the staff of a Sith Lord. She's just like, it's my great grandfather's stuff.
Here's the question: why? How did she get it?
Yeah,
where'd she find it? maybe she found it in that Star Destroyer, which raises the question: did Anakin have Plagueis' staff? Or where did that Star Destroyer come from? I don't know. I'm glad I don't know.
Yeah. I
love that trailer. Anything else you want to say about the trailer? Because it's been out for a while, so there's been a lot of thought and speculation.
No. Pretty much good with it.
All right, great. So, Bandit.
Yes.
We all had some homework.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment. You're going to go out, you're going to start a fight with a total stranger. You're going to start a fight, and you're going to lose.
And so, we all had some homework. I arguably did not do some of my homework, but I did see a really fantastic movie. I saw Steve Jobs this weekend.
Yes. And I saw on Twitter you said it's possibly one of the best movies of the year.
It probably is my favorite.
Really?
It's the more I think about it, The Martian, when I saw The Martian, I felt like a sense of joy and happiness, upbeat, like I can do anything. And when I saw Inside Out, I felt like this was a movie that everyone in the world needed to see, because it shows you how to deal with certain emotions. But with Steve Jobs, it used the story of this man to get across a message of sometimes you have to be a dick to get what you want, but only if what you want can change the world. And he talks, and they say, and it's in the trailer, two biggest events of the 20th century, the Allies win the war in this. And then by that he means the invention of the Macintosh. But what really got me was Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. You guys know Aaron Sorkin is the writer of The Social Network, I guess, or A Few Good Men, some of his most famous works. And he, the setup for the movie, it's basically set in like three 45-minute scenes, basically. That's how it's set. That's the structure of the movie. Three separate scenes, basically all taking place in one or two rooms, and it's all dialogue. It's just people sitting in rooms and talking to each other.
Yeah.
But the way that director Danny Boyle, who did 127 Hours, in Sunshine, the way he did it so that it's all basically set 5-10 minutes before Steve Jobs has to go out and present the next big thing, his next invention. And the way, the whole movie is basically like that.
Oh, so it shows a lot of flashbacks or something? Or
well,
how do they have an hour and a half of them just before he goes out to give a talk?
Well, it's set in the years 1984, 1988, and then 1998. So right before the Macintosh, the Next, and the iMac. And so each one deals with a different aspect of his life. Like the first one, without giving too much away, the first one is very much more about his personal life and his family. The second one is very much about what happened between him and Apple in the late 80s and how it took and how he plans to fix what happened. And then 98 is basically him about to change the world and how everyone around him either loves him or hates him for what he's about to do. And it's so really there are flashbacks, but I guess, how do I put this? It's set right before he goes out on stage. And I don't really know how that works time-wise, but you don't think about that. You don't think about the fact that it takes place 10 minutes before, but it takes 30 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
But it's because it's so cleverly written, and it's good dialogue can really save a movie for me.
Yeah.
There's nothing really technologically advanced about Steve Jobs. There's nothing really director-wise that's done, because Danny Boyle is usually a very flashy director.
By the way,
but there's nothing.
That's probably the only time anyone said that line of "There's nothing technologically advanced about Steve Jobs." It's probably the only time anyone's ever said that sentence before. Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. But Danny Boyle's usually a very flashy director. But he really steps back for this. He really lets the writing take over.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's 3 45-minute scenes of people talking to each other, but the conversations are so interesting. So I'm gonna pull up the IMDb here and read some quotes from the movie here.
And it's really good. Michael Fassbender is his typical.
Yeah. Oh,
awesome
let's get to
self.
the cast. Yeah, Michael Fassbender gives just an Oscar-worthy performance. It sucks that Leo has a movie coming out this year. Because if Leo didn't have The Revenant coming out this year, which I think he's going to get the Oscar for, they might have given it to Michael Fassbender or Steve Jobs, because he vanishes. 5 minutes in, he's gone. You don't see Fassbender anymore. You don't see Magneto.
That's a
you
big
see
call
Steve
for
Jobs.
an actor like Fassbender.
Exactly.
He's one of those guys where you always go, "Oh, Michael Fassbender," not the character. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I'm gonna read you this quote. There's some quotes from the movie, like he's talking to Steve Wozniak, who was the co-creative actor played by Seth Rogen, who's fantastic, by the way, probably the best he's ever been in his career. And Steve says, "What do? You're not an engineer. You're not a designer. You can't put a hammer to a nail. I built the circuit board. The graphical interface was stolen. How come 10 times a day I read that Steve Jobs is a genius? What do you do?" And then Steve Jobs says, "Musicians play the instruments. I play the orchestra." And then he says, "So get back into your seat." And he's like, "So get back into your seat, because what you do well, I play you." And I'm like, oh my god, it's so, you see what I'm saying?
Great.
And and it's, I consider myself, I've been told in the past years of my life that I am not the nicest person to work with. That I'm not, I can become across as condescending. I can come across as too intelligent for my own good. I've come across as kind of I almost swore, kind of an a-hole.
Yeah.
But and this was maybe not more exuberant than when I shot the Star Wars trailer. But how do I put this? But this movie made me realize that we pulled off, and it wasn't just me. It wasn't just my doing. Even though that which sucks because I'm usually the only one people talk about. I usually am the one that gets the thanks for it, that gets the congratulations on it, which kind of just sucks. But what we pulled off, what podcast media pulled off when doing the Star Wars trailer, was, granted, it wasn't the best looking thing, it wasn't the most earth shattering thing, but we took a $250 million trailer and we turned it into a $20 fan project, and we put together something awesome. So excuse me if I'm a little too brash when you're 2 hours late to show up to shoot, because this needs to be great. This needs to be something that we will be known to be remembered by as we made the Star Wars trailer. And this movie really proved to me that you can't change you can't make a dent in you can't make a staple in your life without breaking it. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
You can't staple something without making a few holes. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. There you go. And Steve Jobs, like, it hit me in such a way of like, this is exactly how I think, and this is exactly how I think the world works. And Kate Winslet, she plays his assistant, and he is truly just she's truly just incredible. And those two, Steve Jobs and I think her name's Joanna. Steve Jobs and Joanna really. Man, just really, like there was one quote about how they couldn't fix something, and so he tells his assistant, he's like, his assistant's like, we can't do that. We only had 5 minutes, and he said, actually, you had 3 weeks. The universe was built in a third of that time. And the assistant goes, well, when you tell us how you did it, let us know. And I was just like, oh my god, I've heard all of this. It's a movie. It hit me in a very specific way, and I loved it. It's the definition of good dialogue. To some people, this is going to be a very boring movie. To some people, it's going to be very boring. But I don't know. I've gone on for too long. I loved it. I'm sorry.
No, it sounds great.
It was fantastic.
I'm definitely going to see it now too.
Please, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll put that as my homework.
Please.
Hopefully, it's.
And I apologize if you don't like it. I apologize if you don't like it, but it's definitely my favorite of the year. I loved Steve Jobs. It was.
I'm sure I'll like it because. Yeah, I like Steve Jobs as a person, and I consider him to be like today, like the modern day's Leonardo da Vinci. And some people listening might be
That's a quote. That's a quote in the movie.
Oh, is it really?
That's a quote in the movie. Yeah, they're like, well, time to see if you're Leonardo da Vinci or just think that you are. And I'm like, Aaron Sorkin, just genius, just a mastermind of writing.
He is the modern day da Vinci. Some people might be like, oh no, you're overselling it. No. Very few people has made as much of an impact on our day-to-day lives as does Steve Jobs. I remember like just one mini story is when he made the Mac, like he was in university or whatever and he was bored with this course. So he went and just did a course that he was interested in, which was, I hope I got the right word, cryptography or whatever, which is like writing styles and all that sort of stuff. Really, calligraphy, that's the one. Really obscure thing to take, but that's basically the reason why we have different fonts on computers now. Like the original thinking was like, no, just have text. He's like, we can't just have text. We need to have all these different styles. That's because
he's
of him,
talking. He's talking about like how like without giving anything away because you're going to see the movie. He does certain things that are so minuscule and so specific, but he says that. And he says because that's what Apple needs to remember for. Apple needs to be remembered for the small things, not of what it can do, but because of how it looks. People need to realize what Apple is.
Yeah.
And when he introduces when you realize what the iMac means to him and how the iMac, which is the blue computer, and how it changed everything but why he really ended up doing the iMac, it really warms your heart and it really wraps the whole movie so together in a bow, and it's
and like people talk about like the iPhones and that when they first came out, and it's like, oh, you can touch the screens, oh, it's got a camera, and they go, oh, phones had that for years ago, and it's like, yeah, but like you said with the orchestra, he's the one who put it all together in that package where we're like, okay, I can understand this, and
it worked. Like you can have a bajillion people play great instruments, like you can have someone who knows how to play a violin, the drums, the bass, whatever. But if you don't have a John Williams, then you don't get the Star Wars theme. And I just like that's oh my god.
But just one thing to end this conversation on a downer, because I always like to end things with people.
They don't touch on the cancer.
Oh,
they don't touch on the cancer.
Because I was saying the documentary I watched about him one time, they said, throughout his whole life, that free thinking, style of him always served him well. And it enabled him to achieve the impossible and do what everyone else said couldn't be done. But at the end of his life, that's what cost him his life, a lot of them said, or at least cut it very short. Because when he had cancer, his hippie sort of side is like, I can treat it naturally with, the right food and the right herb and all this sort of stuff. And don't tell me it can't be done. Sorry, it can't be done. It's cancer.
Well, to be fair, he beat cancer once. you know,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it came back and got him in the end. Like that was
That's
like
true.
that
He
was
did
I,
once. Yeah, yeah.
I watched that speech in school of him like except like giving these speech to these graduates, and he's like, that being said, I have defeated cancer, I've done this, and I'm back, you know. And I think he did the iPad a couple of years later.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Although
and then
to be
and then they
technical,
got
it's
him.
not really. Yeah, you don't really defeat it because, like, you know, they chop it out and then they wait to a certain amount of time to see if it comes back. So you don't really know if
Right.
you've defeated it until you've got past a certain time, and he obviously didn't.
That's true.
Because it researched.
Yeah.
So yeah, but hey, that's Steve Jobs. He's like, I've defeated cancer.
And to be fair,
that's the kind of guy
to be
he
fair,
was.
yeah. And to be fair, you forget about the cancer. I forgot about it really up until the '98 when you start to look more like modern Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And that's when I got reminded, like, oh man, are we gonna start learning about the cancer? They don't touch on the cancer, which is good.
And,
okay.
and iTunes was all him because that was after Napster and everything happened, and the music companies went to him and they said, "You've made this iPad, and people are downloading all this music." He's like, "Well, that's not my problem." And they said, "We know, but we're here asking what to do." And he said, "Look, the answer is not to try to stop people from stealing music online. The answer is to make a way for people to do it legally." And thus iTunes was born, and the music piracy kind of really dropped and all that sort of stuff. See, now movie piracy is a problem, but they don't have a Steve Jobs guy to go to who could tell them this is what to do.
Before you get to your whole Netflix thing, let me say
I wasn't going to say that.
Studios,
I just was going to
that
brush
studios
past it.
don't pay $250 million and shoot it in IMAX to see it for people to see it on their phones.
Do you want to get into it?
No,
no. Well, let's not cover it.
I'm just throwing that out there because I know you have the thought in your head right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just letting you know.
I wasn't
that
bringing it
people
up for
don't-
that just because it's Steve Jobs. So
I know,
that's
but
the kind of guy
see.
he was, though. He was like the Da Vinci of his time. Other studios and industries would come to him for advice, and I think he met.
Yeah.
Didn't he meet Obama before he died?
And
he said
I'm sure
something
he did.
like, he's like, oh, he's a really smart guy, but he kept telling me all the reasons why something can't be done, not how they can be done. So yeah. Anyway.
And I just if you like Whiplash, then you'll probably like this movie.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Okay. So Bandit, what did you have any homework? I completely forgot if you had homework.
Yeah, I didn't have any homework. My homework was to see Bridge of Spies for our Steven Spielberg thing.
Oh, okay. Right now.
And now, our feature presentation.
Okay, so Bandit, since you had your homework, you saw Bridge of Spies, which is maybe what's going to lead into our main topic of today, which is the movies of Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
So I gotta ask
for our listeners, we've because Bridge of Spies came out over the last week, and it was also the Back to the Future date of October 21st, Spielberg franchise. So we thought, just like our Ridley Scott episode a couple episodes back, where we sort of covered some of his major movies, we'd do the same thing here with Spielberg. Obviously, we can't cover all of his movies because he's done so many, like E.T. We'll save that for another day. I'm sure the time will come where we'll do another episode on Spielberg later down the track. So the movies that we are covering is Bridge of Spies, Back to the Future Part 2 to fit in with that, Duel, Jurassic Park, and Jaws, which is the one you saw just recently.
Yes, I saw Jaws. Yes.
So, starting with Bridge of Spies, as that was the one that just came up. Yep, it was fantastic. It was really fantastic. I noticed some of the...
I'm glad.
Yeah. Some of the promotional material that was here that I saw on TV said, "This is the greatest work that Spielberg has ever done." That's a pretty big call.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. It's certainly very, very good, though. I'd say it's probably on a level of quality, probably on the same level as Catch Me If You Can. Like, you know, that was great. That was fantastic.
I loved Catch Me.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So it was still really good, but it's not like a Jurassic Park. You know, it's not to that level.
Okay.
But it's definitely a very good movie. It's fantastic. It's, I'm a history nerd, and I love it when history stuff gets it right. This does get it right. And but interestingly, even though it's got all the Cold War politics, it's not actually really about the politics, which works really well because it fits in with Tom Hanks' character. Because even though he's in the middle of all this Cold War paranoia and suspicion on both sides and all this, and he's a lawyer who's assigned to be the defense lawyer for a guy who is accused of being a Russian spy and is a Russian spy. So people in the public who don't understand that he's assigned, somebody has to represent this guy. They're all like, oh, you're a traitor. You know, he has like bricks thrown through his house, the window of his house, all this kind of stuff. People in the profession, a lot of them look at Tom Hanks and they're like, we understand you're doing your civic duty and defending this guy, but we all know that he's going to be guilty, so don't bother giving up a proper defense because we all know it's going to happen. And that's the judge who's doing the case who says that to him. The judge of the case is like, you know, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's guilty. We're going into this knowing him to be guilty.
Yeah. Well, Tom Hanks, because he's like they got all this spy stuff, but when they had a warrant for his arrest, but they didn't have a warrant to seize stuff from his house. So basically, all the evidence they got doesn't count. And he says that to the judge, and the judge is like, look, in any criminal case, that would be the end of the case right there, but this isn't a criminal case. The guy's a spy, so we're going to trial, and he's going to be found guilty. And he basically just tells Tom Hanks that. But it's not really so much about the politics, though. It's more about, because Tom Hanks, his character, he doesn't really view it from a political point of view. He just views like this guy as a person, and like he believes in the Constitution and right and wrong like that. So it's not really political. It just views it more as these are people, and each one has sort of their own moral code that they go with for different reasons. And I love that. It works so well. So it's kind of like the first half of the movie is kind of like him trying to defend this guy and going up against all the opposition in America. And the second half of the movie is what happens when... This is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. I'm not going to give spoilers.
Of course.
And an American pilot who's flying over Soviet territory, taking photos of, missile sites and stuff like that. His plane gets shot down and he gets captured. So Tom Hanks is the guy who they pick to organize a trade between the Russian spy and this American spy pilot guy. Okay. And it's interesting because like they want Tom Hanks to do it because he's a private citizen, so he's not, representing the government. And likewise, on the other side, it's like the trade has to happen in East Berlin because the East Berlin government officially is not the Soviet government, even though they basically are. So it's really interesting to see these kinds of negotiations go on. And the second half is a little bit more of like a spy action movie. Okay. Because, and it's all a true story. Tom Hanks' character, he had to cross the Berlin Wall. It shows the Berlin Wall being built, and it's all very accurate how it's all portrayed. And like he has to cross over into East Berlin for the negotiations. No backup, no help, can't take anyone with him. And there's like, in East Berlin, there's like street gangs and stuff. And he has a run-in with them when he's trying to get to this this meeting. And, then he gets arrested when he's in East Berlin. He has to sleep on this like wooden plank bed. And it's like, so it's a really interesting movie. It's got the whole sort of court stuff. And then it's got the whole spy angle to it, and there's a lot of, like you talked about the conversations that happened in Steve Jobs, the way they're shot. These is kind of like, obviously being a lawyer, all these negotiations and stuff that he does as a lawyer, they're kind of written and acted and filmed kind of like fight scenes, where it's like they're going back and forth and they're trying to find each other's weaknesses, and it's really interesting, So I highly recommend Bridge of Spies if you can watch it. And even if you're not really into history, you'll still probably enjoy it.
My biggest concern, especially when I was looking at the trailers, is that it didn't feel like a Spielberg movie. Would you argue that does it feel Spielbergian and like or Spielberg-esque in any way?
I'd say it feels like serious Spielberg. Like there's no whimsical, his whimsical side. Okay, it's like there's still comedy in it. And he finds his way to work in sort of like quirky comedy and stuff. But it's the more serious Spielberg because it's a more serious topic and all that. Okay. But and I'd say in terms of the way it's filmed and everything, it feels Spielberg. All right. Yeah.
Okay, I was just asking because especially from the marketing, I'm like, this doesn't feel like a Steven Spielberg movie. Okay, well, I'm sorry I don't have more to say on Bridge of Spies. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like I enjoyed it a lot, but yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil the twists and turns in the story.
You don't think this is? You think this is gonna make any dent in kind of his career? Like, oh, you remember Bridge of Spies? That was a good one, huh?
No, I don't think it's
no?
the kind of movie
Okay.
that people will talk about in that sense. But
you think it's gonna go down like Lincoln or War Horse and be like, oh, that was a movie he made, I guess.
Yeah, probably like that. Although
Okay.
I'd say this kind of takes on a different level because I think it's kind of more relevant today than it might have been in the past. For kind of the message is like, when we're under pressure from this enemy, a lot of people want to tear up the rule book and tear up the Constitution. And he's like, well, no, it's at these times we need to stick to it more because that's what makes America America.
Yeah.
And I think that's
and
that's
what
relevant
you're
saying,
saying,
but
yeah.
a lot of people
and what
wouldn't
you're
care
saying
about
with
that message. So.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. And what you're saying, like with how people are saying, he's a traitor, communist or whatever, and people are attacking him. That sounds very much, like how especially here in America, people of the Islamic faith are being are to this day are still being villainized and still being if you're Muslim then that's bad. Not that taken out of context. That's the way many people view that religion. If you're Muslim, then you are bad. So I can. And so I'm guessing that's how that is portrayed in this movie.
That's what I was thinking. Like, so those kind of themes that it brings up are kind of more relevant now, whether or not many people will sort of resonate with that message or whether they'll just enjoy the story for what it is. But either way, it's a good movie. But he does have a good scene where after he's met with his client in the first half of the movie, a CIA agent, goes and sits down in a bar with him or whatever. And he's basically like, so what did he tell you? Did he tell you anything about any information he got while he was here? And Tom Hanks like, well, attorney-client privileges, I can't tell you anything that he said. And the guy's like, come on, give me a break. He's like, we're trying to avert nuclear apocalypse here. Who cares about that? And but Tom Hanks, he says to him, he's like, because the guy says, look, there's no rule book with this. And the guy's not even an American citizen, so who cares? And he says, there's no rule book here. And Tom Hanks says, your last name is German, right? And the guy's like, yeah. And he's like, but I was born here. And he's like, yeah, whatever. He goes, Tom Hanks says, well, I'm Irish on my mother and on my father's side. And he goes, so really, our families have pretty much nothing in common. He goes, so what is it that makes us American? And he says, well, basically, it's just the rule book. It's the Constitution. We all agree. Those are the rules. We all agree to follow those rules. That's what makes us American. And if we haven't got that, then what does it even mean to be American at all? And it's like, he says it better in the movie. But it kind of just sort of crystallizes why he views this so much. And like, even with the Russian spy, like, he never really asked him if he did spying. Like, the guy says to him at one point, he's like, you never actually asked me. He's like, does it matter? Sort of thing. But he mentions a couple of times that he kind of admires him because of, like, he didn't take the, as he calls it, the coward's way out. He didn't kill himself. He didn't make a deal. He never betrayed his country because that's like his morals. So Tom Hanks is just a guy who kind of, it's kind of about like one man trying to find what's morally right in a morally confusing situation, basically. And it's a good ending at the end. He's kind of vindicated where everyone's like, yeah, he was right,
Okay, well, I'm glad that there was a good movie made here. I really wish that this movie could have been. I really wish that this movie could have made a bigger splash than and really had a big impact. Okay,
it's certainly good though.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, you want to cover one of yours? Well, which one do you want to talk about first? Let's talk about Jaws, because that was. Had you seen that before you did that for this?
Jaws?
Yeah.
I'd never seen it in full.
Okay.
No. So I'd seen it. This was the first time that I saw it all the way through from beginning to end, and I gotta say, man, that like when you see like a classic movie and you know the whole plot and you know how things are gonna play out, you know how it ends, but just sitting there and watching it, and it's like when I saw Pulp Fiction. You understand why the world loves this movie. And my God, Bandit, did I love this movie? Because it's
good, isn't it?
It really is a horror film, and people seem to at least in the public mindset, people really seem to forget that Jaws is a horror film. Jaws is a horror film.
Yeah.
Like through in and throughout. Like it has some whimsical moments, of course. You know, it has the classic John Williams score. It has the dun 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 dun, some of the John Williams stuff. But
Yeah,
like the opening scene. Oh my god.
Apparently, John Williams.
It's
sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
John Williams said when
Yeah.
he first played that to Spielberg thought he was joking, and he's like, "Okay, no, where's the real music?" And he's like, "No, that's it." He's like, "That's 2 notes," and he's like, "No, but it builds. See?" He's like, "Close your eyes and imagine people swimming," and he kept doing that, dun 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 dun, getting faster. And he's like, "Okay, yeah, that's good."
Yeah, but like, okay, so the opening scene, it's the logos, and then you just hear, and my first thought is, okay, here we go. And it just keeps going. And then, like, it just, I mean, the opening, okay. We can spoil Jaws, can't we? It's been 40 years.
The shark eats a lot of people. Spoiler alert.
Well, there are certain characters that do die towards the end.
Yeah.
And you know, and so spoilers for these movies. From here on
Thankfully,
out,
the black guy
spoilers for
doesn't
all the
die
movies
in
we
this.
talk about.
There is no,
Is
there's
there a
no
black
black
guy?
guy in the movie.
Yeah, I was like, is there a black guy? Is there a black guy in this movie?
No.
It was the 70s, man. No, okay.
That whole
so
island
they were
is
all
not a
James, they were all
colored
in
guy,
James
anyway.
Bond movies. Okay, so the opening scene, right? And so it's this girl skinny dipping. Speaking of which, really a lot gets away in this PG rating
know,
of
right?
the movie. By the
Yeah.
way,
It's like,
huh?
yeah, it's. I don't know whether she was wearing like skin-colored bathers because sometimes they do that, you know. But it doesn't
Oh,
look
no,
like
she
she's
was-
wearing anything.
She was nude.
Yeah.
Nothing, Bandit. I don't want to be crude, but there were things flopping. It was the 70s. So you know, and so she gets in the water, and the guy passes out. The guy that she's going with passes out. He's drunk, and then you just hear and then it just keeps building and building and building, and you see this, and you see like this POV shot of this girl's legs, and then you see her go and sink into the water, and then but it's a quick thing. She goes right back in, like something like just tugged her a bit, and my first thought was, ooh, and then she just keeps getting dragged, and then she's getting like dragged on the water, and then she just goes down, and never comes back up. I'm just like, oh my god! I was nervous after that. I was like, this movie is a little bit more unsettling than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then and then we get introduced to our characters. Is Roy Scheider? He's Brody or Brody. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Chief
okay.
Brody.
Chief Brody, and he's great. He's great.
Oh, by the way,
and so-
by the way, I'm just
Yes.
want to insert a little bit of trivia. The girl who gets eaten, Christy, at the beginning there, she said when she filmed that was extra scary because they had like pulleys underwater to pull her back and forth. But they said, if you get in trouble, just let us know. All right, go. And then she's like, how am I going to let you know? The scene is me screaming and calling for help.
Yeah.
So she's like, how are you going to know the difference between actual calls for help or me acting? So she said she was extra terrified because, like...
I guess maybe she'd yell Stephen or like Steve or anything or something like that. She'd yell like the crew names.
Yeah, I guess she'd have to.
Because that can't be in the movie. She'd be like, Steve! Like, Steve!
But I think some of that was genuine terror.
Oh, yeah.
Because of
Absolutely.
that.
Like,
So anyway, sorry, go ahead. So Chief Brody.
no, so we get introduced to Chief Brody. He's this. I keep wanting to say Brody. Chief Brody. He's this kind of. He's this. I don't want to say temperamental, but he's this kind of. He's this guy that there are rules that needs to be stuck to. We need to make sure his job is to protect this town.
Yeah.
And we introduced to the mayor of the island, Amity, I think is what it's called, which is basically this island of this resort, if you will. And the mayor was an interesting character because when you first meet him, you think that he's just about the money, that he's just about getting rich. And then as
He's a
you
mustache
learn
twirler
things,
when you first meet him, you're like, oh, he's
Yeah.
just the bad guy.
but when you get to know things and you realize that he was only doing this because he's right. The summer is the reason that this island is still flourishing.
Yeah.
The only reason people can live here is because that during the summer we get like 4th of July is that big event.
And they did catch a
and-
shark. So he's like, yep, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're done. Let's go.
Yeah.
Open for business, yeah.
So when they're in the hospital after something happens and he's just like he talks to the mayor and he's just like, listen, I had kids on the beach. I had my kids on the beach too.
Yeah, that's a great
And you're just
moment,
like-
isn't it? Because he's like, listen,
yeah.
Mayor, we need to do this. And he stops and he's like, my kids were on that beach too.
And then that's when Brody realizes, like, okay, he's just as worried as this. I gotta say, maybe my favorite scene of the whole movie is when they're on the beach. I think it's before 4th of July. And so everyone's out of the water. No, people are in the water, and we see a dog go in the water with his master.
Yeah.
We see a boy get in the water, and we see a couple get in the water. We see a little fat lady get in the water. My first thought was, well, that fat chick's a goner. Because my first thought was, oh, all you can eat buffet over there.
Yeah.
But the music keeps building. You hear
The dog gets eaten.
Yeah, and you see the bone floating on the
because
water.
the guy's calling
like
for his dog.
cheering.
He's like, "Where is he?"
Yeah.
And then you just see the bone the dog is carrying floating.
You hear, and you're just like, oh, wow. And you see the fat woman's legs, and then out of nowhere, it cuts to the boy's legs, and it's close. And my first thought was, they're not gonna. And then the boy goes, and I'm like, oh my god, they are. And then you just hear dun 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 dun, and then the boy gets like dragged under, and you see blood coming out of his mouth, and he's just like ah, and then water goes under, and you just see blood squirting out of the water. My first thought was, oh my god!
Yeah.
But they just like they did not hold back.
All bets are off once
And
that happens. You're like, you kidding
Yeah,
me?
that scene, like, legit scared me because the camera speeds up and it goes close towards the light, and the music builds, dun 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 dun, and the boy goes under, and I'm just like, That was the point where I was just like, this is why the world loves this movie.
Yeah, but
this is really
that's an important moment because in a writing course I did, a long time ago, one of the things they said is, like, they do it here in Jaws. Game of Thrones is really good for doing this. Walking Dead often does this. Is if you convince your reader for a book or audience or whatever that you're a psychopath and that anybody in the story could die, it's so much more interesting. And I think that's that moment in Jaws when that kid gets eaten. You're like, well, anybody could die here.
That was my first thought. My first thought was, okay, so no one's safe then because they killed a 6-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Like no one's safe.
There was one kill that Spielberg cut because it was too intense. And it was at the bit where they were in the little pond, and Chief Brody's son, the boat is knocked over by the shark, and his son goes in the water, and then that adult is eaten by the shark, and the shark kind of pulls him. You see him getting dragged through the water. Remember that bit?
Yeah,
You think it's like the camera zooms into the kid, but then swerves. Like you think the shark's going to get the chief's son, but then it moves. Well, that original scene was, it's got the guy by the leg, and it's dragging him through the water, and it drags him past where the kid is. So the guy who's being eaten by the shark kind of like gets tangled in the kid, and he's almost dragging him underwater as well. And then in a last bit of strength before he passes out from blood loss, he just pushes the kid away from him so that he doesn't drown with him. And Spielberg's okay, that's too much. And he took that out. So he just had the camera.
That whole scene was intense. Like that whole thing was.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Oh my god! When it's revealed that those two kids were just playing a prank on the shark and the fin.
Did you notice
Huh?
The underwater camera for when it was a prank, no Jaws music. That was a point with Spielberg. He's like, they originally had the Jaws music in there, and he's like, no. He's like, you can't have that music for the fake shark.
That's true because then that music means nothing.
Exactly.
That's true.
See, that's why Spielberg is Spielberg. He thinks of stuff like that.
Yeah, and so you're watching this, and then it's revealed that those two kids, and I was never so angry at children in a movie. I was like, get those kids out of the water, and then everyone had their guns pointed at the kids, and you just see all the guys go like put their guns away. I'm like, someone should shoot that kid in the foot like that. Like those kids need to get where's their mother and where's a belt for those kids need to spank.
But mind you, that's exactly the kind of thing that teenagers would do.
Yes, but there are kids in my absolutely, but I'm just saying. Like,
we get kids here that start bushfires as a joke, and they get out of control. So we have those kind of kids here, and it's
fire for fun.
Yeah, I know it's dumb teenage stuff,
yeah, we're pretty stupid. And then, after that big event, people are trying to hunt down the shark, and then I think they do hunt down the shark. Then we meet Richard Dreyfuss's character. That is Richard Dreyfuss, isn't it?
Yeah, the marine biologist. What was his?
Yeah, okay, I was making sure.
Hooper, isn't that it?
Cooper,
it is. Yeah. Stop it! Ain't you watching it? That guy, yeah.
Yeah. And they all decide. He decides, we go out and get the shark ourselves.
Oh, by the way, Cooper after Jaws came out, a lot of people became marine biologists because that guy made marine biology look so cool. He's like the Tony Stark of marine biology.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone wants to become a thermonuclear astrophysicist after Tony Stark's up at school.
Sorry, go on though.
No, well, it's like, after a really effective jump scare, when he's going down into the, and he looks at the bottom of the boat, and he looks inside, and then the body just goes, and the music, like, there's some quick music sting. I jumped out of my seat. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, and I think about how many movies have done that since Jaws. My first thought is Gravity. Gravity did that shot of where, they're looking in the spaceship, and then you see a dead body float out. Yeah. and think that I think that might have almost been an homage. I might think.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been. Actually,
but because that scene, it was very similar to what Jaws did, unless it was just a ripoff in itself. But and I wasn't annoyed by it because it built all this tension, and you're almost relieved that it's not the shark. You're almost relieved that it's like, oh, thank God, it's just a dead body. You're relieved that the shark isn't there because the whole scene is them building towards something being in the water, and then you see a whole bit into the boat, and you're like, oh my God, the shark's there. And then the body comes out.
And he has that, but he has that bit before he goes in the water where he's like, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. And you as the audience is like, you haven't seen this shark. You don't know what this shark is capable of.
He's like, oh, you're a goner.
Yeah.
But the 4th of July scene, when the shark is going onto the guy, and you see the shark, like, when you kind of get that look of the shark as its full size and its entirety, and you get like a brief glimpse of how big that thing is, my first thought was, ooh, that's a big, like, this movie really pulled me in, especially in that famous scene, Get out here selling some of this stuff, and then the shark pops out of the water, and he just goes that face of, back, you're gonna need a bigger boat.
That was improvised, that line too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Because it's the perfect tag on a great scene. Yeah. Because you don't see it coming. You don't see it coming.
And that bit where its head pops out, that's the first time where you clearly see the shark. Because for those who don't know, before that, the big machine that they made, which they named Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer.
Finding Nemo.
Yeah, I think that's why it was called Bruce, yeah.
Finding Nemo, yeah. Homage to Jaws.
But that didn't work underwater for a really long part of the movie, so they just saved it for the finale. So that's why you don't see the shark for so long. But that thing not working well turned out to be a really good thing, because by not seeing the shark, if you had seen it from the beginning, it wouldn't be as scary. It's like when it builds up and builds up. But that leads to Spielberg did a lot of other stuff, like with the barrels in the final scene where they're shooting barrels into them.
Oh my God.
When they couldn't get the shark, they use those barrels, or like when those idiots on the dock, when they try to catch it and it rips the jetty out, and you see the jetty turn around in the water and come back. Like,
oh my God. And the music, dun 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 dun.
Keep swimming,
and he's
don't
like,
look back.
Keep going, don't look back, get out of that water. My first thought is he better get out that water, and then you see his foot dangling, and you're like, oh, they're goners. So he's a goner. like he's losing that foot. Yeah. And let's talk about the barrel scene, the scene with the barrels. Because my first thought was, he's gonna turn the boat over. Yeah. So this is going to be the time where the boat starts to sink. But no, the shark goes, and then he's just like, he's not going over that with 3 barrels, and then the barrels go under. And my first thought was, oh my God, like, because I had no idea what was going to happen at all. I was so nervous. that last 40 minutes had me on edge like the entire time. And we haven't even talked on Robert Shaw as
Quint.
As Quint.
What an amazing character that guy was.
Yeah.
It was a suitable mix of tough, funny, and insane. Because that guy was insane.
Yeah.
But he was lovable. Insane.
You could tell he'd been through a lot.
Yeah. And it's his fault. It's his fault that he died. Because there's multiple times in that bit where like Cooper's like, you're overloading the engine, you're gonna wreck it, and he doesn't listen, and he wrecks the engine. And then the chief tries to call for help, and he smashes the radio. So it's like, it's his fault. It's his own fault that he died.
But I think he went out there knowing that he was going to die, and so he's just like, I think he wasn't going to get.
Either he was going to come back with that dead shark, or he wouldn't come back at all. Yeah,
exactly. Like I think he knew he was going out there to get that shark, and this movie really. There have been so many homages, I think, to Jaws. I think the one that I remember most distinctly was, I don't know if you've ever seen an episode of SpongeBob in your life, SpongeBob SquarePants, but there's an episode of SpongeBob where they all go fishing for clams. I know it's all set underwater, but get over that. And so they all go fishing
underwater.
And there's this, I know. But there's this giant clam, but it only shows up whenever you hear the score, and so you'd always hear dun, dun, dun. And so the main characters would be like, what is that? And then like a captain would be like, where's that coming from? And like he'd always forget whenever the score, and then like he'd open the ship doors and it would be like John Williams playing the Jaws score in the background. And so he tried to get John Williams to stop playing, and whenever he would stop playing, the clown would disappear. I'd be like, oh, thank God, we're safe. And that was a nice reference to Jaws. But it was a really intense movie. But yeah, it also had a great spirit to it. And I never
still
felt
good comedy in it.
Yeah,
I like the bit where the Chief Brody and his wife. The kids are in the boat on the harbour, and he's like, "Get out of the boat! I don't want you in the water." And she's like, "He's not in the water. He's in the boat." And then she looks at the boat,
and then she reads like the shark that sharks can get.
Sees
in the boat,
the picture of the boat, the shark smashing through the boat. And she's like, "Did you hear your father? Get out of the boat now!"
Yeah, and this movie really, I think, set a I think this movie, like, you can see why this became the first blockbuster. Yeah. You can see why this movie made a cultural standpoint. It's really and great.
You can see why a lot of people were genuinely scared to go swimming after seeing that movie.
Oh yeah, I was scared to take my shower after I saw Jaws. I'm like, I'm gonna stay away from the water for a while. I was, it was a generally unsettling movie. I'm not sure if it hit me the same way that a movie like Pulp Fiction hit me when I first saw Pulp Fiction. But it's definitely a great movie. I can see why it's everyone's favorite.
Amazingly acted
one of the
too.
favorites.
There's a scene where there's a scene in the family home where they're all making breakfast and Chief Bodie's just answering the phone, and he's got two phones, because one for when he's a cop, one for the home line, and he's like picking up the wrong one, and it's like it's so genuine that like you could say that they just put the camera in a real house, and just as that was going on, it was so authentic, and like that's very Spielbergian too.
You could feel kind of the manic nature of the town too.
Yeah.
And like whenever everyone, like, you hear people talking and doing things in the background as the main characters were having their own conversations. Like you can hear people freaking out in the background, and Brody is calling his assistant, or not his deputies in and doing things. You really felt the importance of this. I really enjoyed it.
And also because Jaws was based off a book. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is after the movie came out, not only were people afraid to go swimming, but a lot of people specifically went out and tried to kill a lot of great whites because of the movie.
Oh, okay.
They're like, they're these evil killing machines, blah, blah, blah. Even though the Cooper character explains they're not. It's just their territory and they just do what they do. They're not specifically out to get
That's
people.
what they do. To quote Cooper, they eat, they kill, and then they make baby sharks.
They swim,
that's
they
what they
eat,
do.
and they make baby sharks.
Yeah,
that's all they
there
do.
There you go. Yeah, which is true, but then again, that's what all fish do.
Yeah. But he says, I think he also mentions the only time they usually attack humans is if they mistake them for a seal or something like that. Which is usually
like
true.
when someone's swimming. And so.
But anyway,
and then again, great whites aren't even.
I didn't get to finish, but because of that, a lot of people after the movie went out and targeted great white sharks. So the author who wrote Jaws actually started a special thing trying to educate people about sharks. To sort of reverse kind of what he inadvertently set in motion with his book, and he was like, sharks kill about 6 people a year worldwide. He said, while elephants trample about 300 people in a year. But you don't have the same kind of fear of elephants as you do of sharks. But really, elephants are way more dangerous.
Shark attacks are as common. What kills more people than sharks a year? Vending machines. Vending machines kill more people. Yeah, people die in vending machines more than they do from sharks. And great whites aren't even the most aggressive sharks out there. It's the bull sharks that are the most aggressive.
Yeah.
So
because they normally.
Granted, you shouldn't be in the water with a shark, but I doubt the shark's going to really make it its mission to kill you.
Yeah.
Unless you look like food.
But I think, like most sharks, normally they have. Yeah, if they're interested in eating something, normally they'll swim nearby you first to get a better look, and then they might bump into you. And then they'll come and they'll take one bite to see if you're edible or not, and then
they'll get a little nip at you, and then be like, "Oh, that's not food," like.
But a lot of experienced divers, they know that if you see them swim past at a distance, they'll come by closer, and they just poke them with their stick, and then they go away, and then they reset, and a bit later you see them again at a distance, and again coming closer.
How horrifying is that to see a shark at a distance? That.
I think that's why they're more scary than like elephants or other stuff. Just because you're in the water, you're helpless. You're so slow, you can't see what's under you or around you, and I think that's what makes them so scary.
Yeah, and I don't want to tell any more personal stories here, but when I went to Destin, Florida, a couple years ago, I think I got bit on my toe. But I think like one of the small sharks, like a nurse shark or something like that, like something kind of smaller. But I felt the bite, and I was very scared. I was knowing who I am. I was very much freaking. I overreacted. I was like, "Shark! Everyone out!" Because I saw the dorsal fin. I'm like, "Everyone get out of the water!" And granted, it was maybe the size of it was maybe 2 feet long, maybe 2 feet. Like maybe I was freaking out. I was like, "We need to go!" Like I didn't get back in the water for the rest of the day.
Did it draw blood?
A little. It was like maybe it was like a little cut of my toe.
Yeah.
But it was nothing like. But it was exactly what they said. Like they'll take a nip at you, and then if they don't taste something good, they'll swim away. Which it did.
Yeah.
It pieced. It got out of there. But and so, I got out. I got
Did
out
everyone
of Dodge.
scramble when you yelled shark?
A couple of people did, but then like some people that are probably more knowledgeable like picked the shark up, and they were just like, "It's just a small shark," and they let it go and let it swim back away. So it was, Look, I was like 12, so I was okay.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I think most of us would have had the same reaction.
Like we gotta go. Like I didn't try to kill it. I just tried to get out of the water. So I was just like we gotta go. But that's Jaws. Do you want to move on from?
Just one last thing I want to mention is I love the scene where they're in the boat. It's nighttime, and they all start drinking, and they're all like him and Cooper are like sharing scars and stories about I love that whole scene because that's like the first time that he and Cooper actually kind of bond. And then he starts to kind of like Cooper at that point. And he tells that whole story about that naval vessel that went down, which is a true story actually, and like all the people in it were eaten by sharks. And did you like that scene?
I feel like I did. It just, in my opinion, it felt out of place.
Really? Okay.
It's a great character moment. It's a great thing to establish why this guy is the way he is. But in my opinion, it's the only scene where I'm just like, you could have cut that out. And not because it's not a poorly made scene. It doesn't tear down the movie. But that was the one scene where I was actually looking at my watch.
Really?
Going, this has gone on. Yeah, wow.
Because I think that's imperative for the Quint character.
I don't think it fit the movie at all.
Really?
Like, I think.
Wow, man.
I don't think it fit the tone at all. I think you're suddenly going off and telling this kind of war story in a sense, after having this really great character building moment. Because that scene of them sharing scars is us seeing a different side of Quint. That's us seeing the different side of him.
Yeah.
And I think that was good enough to see that he had a different side.
But it sort of explores Quint's motivations and who he is, just like Luke in the Tree and Dagobah explores his. You don't like scenes that go into like deeper character motivations, do you?
I don't like scenes that stop the movie dead.
Even if it's for a really important reason.
Well, you can have good scenes that keep the movie that keeps the characters flowing and don't stop the movie.
Okay,
Look at Pulp Fiction. Look at Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So okay.
There's also a bit of a subtext in that movie, or I suppose you can call it a fan theory or whatever, that Chief Brody has or did have at one point a drinking problem, because he drinks a lot of alcohol throughout that movie.
He does.
Wife.
I noticed that.
And like, yeah, like kind of a lot of people think like he's obviously a good cop, but why would a good cop end up in this little town in the middle of nowhere? And they said, well, maybe he got in a bit of trouble drinking as a cop. Like maybe he was drinking on the job, so the only job he could get after that was at this small town on an island way out in the middle of nowhere, sort of thing. And that might explain why kind of the mayor and that just sort of overrule him and just expect him to do whatever they say. So, so that's, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's interesting, and it sort of means that like him bringing down that shark is also kind of a redemption story for him, if that's true. So I like to believe that's true. So.
That's a great scene, by the way. Whenever he takes down the shark, smile, you son of a.
Yeah, the guy who wrote the book, he's like, that's not how it ends. It just gets speared through the head and it dies. And Spielberg's like, he's like, I don't care. I need to have a big moment at the end where everyone goes, yeah, you took down the beast.
Well, because that's what that moment needed.
Yes.
That was the perfect time.
Again,
and
that's
then you
why
see
Spielberg
Cooper come
is
back
Spielberg.
up. Yeah, and then you see Cooper come back up, and you're like, yeah, Cooper's alive, yeah. And so it was a good moment.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, what was he like? I'm never getting in the water again or whatever. And he's like, can't see why. And then the movie just kind of ends. You're just like, Spielberg.
Yeah. So awesome. Yeah, Jaws.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah, Jaws was great. I'm glad I watched.
I like it when you get to watch these like older movies that you haven't seen before. It gives, it's cool to hear like the fresh take on it.
Why? Thank you.
All right. So moving on.
Okay. Let's do one of yours.
Back to the Future Part 2, and yes, we know Spielberg didn't actually direct that, but we're counting it because it's
now we do.
Yeah,
we do, at least.
You told me, yeah.
yeah.
But we know it's a franchise that he started, and besides, the moment in Back to the Future Part 2, he travels forward to October 21st, 2015.
All right, Doc, what's going on, huh? Where are we? When are we?
We're descending toward Hill Valley, California at 4:29 p.m. on Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
2015? You mean we're in the future?
So because we're in that time period, we have to cover it, even though it's not technically a Spielberg movie. It's his franchise, but Back to the Future Part 2, I absolutely want to live in the 2015 reality rather than this one.
I want those pizzas. I want
those little microwave pizzas that you put in and they expand. I want the power laces where I put my foot in and it goes zzz, zzz,
yeah. I'm happy Nike's making those and they gave it a pair to Michael J. Fox, which is just awesome.
Or clothes that size automatically or dry you if you're wet, and I'm sure probably do other things as well, like air conditioning on hot days. Like, yes, I love that. Yeah. Hoverboards, flying cars.
Yeah,
no, I don't want flying cars. That'd be terrible.
Well, not yet. No, because then you'd have space traffic, or you'd have not space, but you have air traffic, and I don't want air traffic because.
Yeah. Do you know how many? Then you have air. Do you know how many cars I've had that the engine has conked out and they've just rolled to a stop at the side of the road? If they were flying cars, I'd be dead 50 times over.
That's true.
Flying car, you got nowhere to go.
What if you run out of gas? What happens then?
Yeah,
right?
Well, you only got one way to go, which is straight down.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm glad they're not a reality. But yeah, Back to the Future Part 2, like, I've seen it plenty of times. I think, like, rewatching it, maybe it's just because we argued over Terminator Genesis so much last week, but I thought, when watching this, I thought, this is actually how you do, like, there's an exposition scene where Doc Brown is talking to Marty, and he's, like, drawing on the chalkboard, and he's like, yeah, here's our timeline, and then this happened, so we skewed off, and we came here, and, like, to change it, we need to go back to this point because we can't go forward to... And he explains it all way better than I am now. But the way that they explain time travel is so clear in that and very easy to understand. And the use of, like, photographs or newspapers that change as, like, they make changes in the past. They got a photograph in the future, it'll change. And, like, really good, simple ways of explaining the whole time travel thing.
Yeah, I think every time travel movie needs to have a scene like that one,
or like devices
where
like
all the
that.
characters just sit down. Maybe it doesn't have to be the way that Doc Brown did it, like on the board or whatever. But they just need to have this sit down and say, "This is what happened. Here's where we are. Here's what needs to change." Like just keep it simple. No reason to do the Star Trek. We're in an alternate dimension. Like no, you don't do all that. Just
mind you,
here's what
the
happened.
drawing on the chalkboard
Here's what's different.
did really help, because that was complicated. Because the Biff in the future gets the thing, goes back, changes, goes back to the future again. Then they go back to their original timelines of difference, so they can't go to the future to stop him. And so it was complicated, but drawing it on the chalkboard like that, you can see what he's saying, and it makes it so much easier.
Exactly. I gotta ask, do you think movies will ever have endings like to the Back to the Future movies that like have had? Like Back to the Future 1, it ends with like, it's a kid's body, it's a kid's, you know, and then they get into it, we don't need roads, and then down, and then Back to the Future 2, and which is, in my opinion, one of the incredible ending.
Yeah.
You know, it's the scene from the first movie. Marty goes back, and then like Doc's just like, yeah, we did it, and then you see another Marty run around the corner, and you're like, what? And then, you know, and then Doc's just like, I just sent you back to the future. And I'm like, hey.
I'm back from the future.
You know, I'm back from the future. And you're like, wow.
And it ends
and then he's just,
with, it shows clips from the next movie, so they must have filmed them together.
Which is great.
Because otherwise, how could they
weren't
possibly get that?
Weren't they released like 89 and 90? Weren't they released like back to back year after year?
I didn't bother to check, but I assumed as much. But it's interesting because the first movie, they didn't know whether they would have a sequel. They just threw that bit in at the end in case they have a sequel, but it's something fun for the ending. And so apparently they had to rush the next two movies out. But you can tell because in Back to the Future Part 2, they mention the West quite a lot. You know, there's lots of homages to it because that's where the third is set.
That's a great scene too. Whenever he reads the note from Doc, and he's like 1885, and he's like 1885, and you're like, oh, okay. So they're going to the past in the next one. And granted, Back to the Future 3 isn't great, but I only think that's because they really, I don't want to say stepped up their game, but they really stepped it up like the world building wise with Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
Like Back to the Future 2, you were in the future, you are creating, you get to create a new world, you know. And Back to the Future 3, you're going back in time. Not a lot of flashy stuff. It's really a lot of dirt.
In the first one, it's 1985 Hill Valley and 1955 Hill Valley. I probably got the dates wrong, but whatever. But in this one, it's 1985 Hill Valley, 2015 Hill Valley, 1955 Hill Valley, and alternate reality 1985 Hill Valley, and they all look different. So it's you're right. It's very, very diverse. They expanded it a lot more. And interestingly, because the actor who plays Biff and Griff and, you know, Mad Dog, all those different generations of bullies, that was, I think he's, apart from maybe Nelson Muntz, he's probably the most iconic bully in movies. Is Biff Tannen. I love that Biff Tannen.
Yeah, that's probably true.
He was fantastic,
but you know
that
what?
guy.
He's great. You know what I find funny about Back to the Future? And I think this is true for a lot of movies. For a movie that is so like instigated into our pop culture, for a movie that's so a part of the geek world, of just the general world and in general, for lack of better terms, there are so many people that have not seen these movies. Like, I brought up Marty McFly and Michael J. Fox, and my friend went, huh? I'm like, Back to the Future. He's like, oh, that guy, right. I'm like, really? Like, you don't know who Marty McFly is? And it's I think it's funny that there's this kind of there's this cutoff date to where people don't know what this is anymore, and I think it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad.
Well, that's why we're here, Trey.
Yes, that's why we're here. We are bridging the world together. We are.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's
we are a bridge between two generations.
It's interesting though, because now that we have gotten to 2015, and in the movie, there's like Michael J. Fox, and then they've created older versions of all those characters. So, but now that we actually are in 2015, you can match like what Michael J. Fox does actually look like compared to what they thought he would look like. And of course, he actually looks younger than they made him look in 2015.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, Michael J. Fox isn't that old.
No, he's not. He's not. He's not
like.
But what's interesting is there's a running joke throughout all of the movies that Doc Brown always looks the same. He never ages. Like even when he's younger, he still looks like an old man. And there's a bit in Back to the Future 2 where he starts peeling off this rubber mask and he's like, "Sorry for the disguise, Marty, but I was worried that you wouldn't recognize me. I went and had a complete overhaul. Added like 30, 40 years to my life." And he peels it off and he looks exactly the same. He's like, "You look great, Doc." But the actor who plays Doc Brown still does look pretty much the same.
Yeah, he just looks a little bit more wrinkly. Like, but that's why I'm saying, like, if they want to do another Back to the Future,
he could still be the
which
Doc.
I think exactly. And people have an issue with Back to the Future Part 4.
Part 3, you mean?
I'm.
Oh no, the possible new one you're talking about, Back to the Future 4. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
I'm 100% okay with it because how do I put this? I've seen Back to the Future twice in my life, like the first one twice in my life, like a couple of times. I haven't seen it in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years. I've seen parts of Back to the Future 2, parts which I saw this morning, and then I've seen Back to the Future 3, I don't know, once maybe. So Back to the Future really isn't, like I said, a staple of our modern pop culture. So I'd love to see Back to the Future done, not necessarily with a modern text, but really a movie that can, kind of like what Star Wars is doing, kind of to bring back this excitement for this franchise. And Christopher Lloyd, I'm sure, will be all for it. He's talked about it, you know. So I'm all for doing another Back to the Future. I don't know.
I'd like to see one set in modern days and they go back to the 90s. Just because I'm a 90s kid.
Okay, yeah.
I'll be like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I remember those guys, not the CG ones, the other ones.
Look, it's not. I like that movie.
Yeah, I never saw it. I didn't bother to see it. I saw Nostalgia Critics review of it, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I don't need to watch it."
Yeah, people need to calm down. That was the main point of that review. People need to calm themselves.
Yeah, that was a good review too, where he's like, "It's just part of the process of everything."
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, I was talking about Biff Tannen. Is because I thought, I don't remember seeing that actor in anything else, so I went on IMDb and checked out what other stuff he's done. Interestingly, he hasn't done any more movies, but his bio in there basically says he's had one of the most diverse careers that most actors could possibly have. He's done pretty much every creative field. He's done writing, he's done acting, he's done music, he's done theater, he's been a comedian. He's done voiceover work, he's done a lot of TV work. He did voiceover for SpongeBob, actually. I don't know which character he was, but he was one of them.
Ooh.
And I'm
gonna look this up.
What I found was he's playing a character in the upcoming Red Dead Redemption TV show.
Oh, TV show.
Yeah. It's weird because all I can find about it is there's a full cast list on IMDb because I saw it and clicked on it, and Biff, the guy who plays Biff is one of them. He's actually playing Bill Williamson. So, but someone said, "Is that genuine?" I'm like, I think so. I mean, it's on IMDb, it's all there, and if someone was faking it, the list of actors they'd pick, it looks genuine because there's a few unknowns there. I'm like, why would you pick unknowns if you're faking a list? But I hope it's true because I'd love to see Biff Tannen as Bill Williamson from Red Dead Redemption.
Well,
he's already played a cowboy in Back to the Future Part 3. Now I can do it again.
Well, would a Red Dead Redemption TV show work? Like, what studio is it? Like, what channel? What channel would it be?
I tried to find out. That's why take it with a grain of salt.
That really depends.
It's hard to find info.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that really depends on which channel you have. If you can say give it to AMC. I wouldn't give it to AMC.
No, because you know what AMC
I wouldn't
is?
Give it to AMC.
They do the first season, they go, this is really working well. So season 2, when he goes to Mexico, stretch that out to 5 seasons. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
it makes sense, because I remember when I played through that video game, I was like, this story is great. I was like, this would work better as a TV show than a movie because there's so much there. And I guess 3 seasons would make sense because one is in New Austin in America, then he's in Mexico for the next season, then the 3rd season he's up in Canada, I think it is, or Northern America in the snowy hills. And...
I don't.
You don't
want,
like the story?
I don't. Well, no. I think it's a great game. I think it's a fun. I don't want to say fun. It's a well put together game. But video game adaptations have not worked
for movies. But
ever.
I think this could be the breakthrough one, at least for TV.
But I think this could really stand to be a problem. Like if you take like kind of a more open world video game like Red Dead Redemption, and you put it in, we're thinking of the same game, right?
Yeah.
Old West, Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm making sure. Yeah, okay. So you take a game like Red Dead Redemption, open world game, and you give it to a TV show, you can really stretch that out, and you can milk that game for all its resources. And I'm not sure I want to see that.
But even that's the thing is like they can focus on the main story and have 3 distinct seasons. But even if they do want to stretch it out, they could take the stories from different side missions, which were also really good, and weave them in as well. Like, according to the IMDb, Michael Shannon is going to play the man in the top hat. Well, I won't spoil it for any listeners. It's a Western, of course, so there's, as with most Westerns, there's this idea of redemption and are you going to go to heaven and hell and all this sort of stuff. So there's this mysterious guy in a top hat who like keeps showing up and knows way too much about John Marston. He's like, yeah, who are you? Where do I know you from? And he keeps giving him these tasks of like, hey, there's this nun over there raising money for the orphans. Why don't you go and make a donation? Or you could rob her. He gives all these different things, and you can either do the good thing or the bad thing. And the way it all wraps up. When I saw Michael Shannon was playing him, I'm like, ooh, that's good.
Scarecrow I don't know.
I honestly... be the professor.
Oh, they got Cillian Murphy.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And
all right. Okay,
is
you know what?
Drew McFarlane.
Oh, snap.
And the sheriff in Armadillo is the guy who was the T-1000.
Robert Patrick. Okay. All right.
Oh, and
you know what?
What's his name? Famous British actor.
What was he in?
Oh, man, I've blanked. Oh, but the guy who's playing Nigel West Dickens is a really famous British actor.
Is it that one British actor that everyone forgets his name?
Must be.
Is it that one guy? Jim Parsons.
Let me find it. I think I've still got it here somewhere.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm all for it. It's a great cast, but it really depends who they give the show to. Like HBO could do great things with this. Netflix, great things with this. AMC, ABC, the more major networks.
I would like to say with a story that good, it's impossible to ruin. But mind you, it's happened before. Dead. Yeah.
Look at.
Here it is.
It took 3 issues.
Malcolm McDowell is playing Nigel West Dickens.
Okay. Yeah. You give this to the right student, you can do something really fantastic.
Yeah, and Mackenzie Crook is Seth. He's the guy. He was the guy in Pirates of the Caribbean. He had the glass eye and was always in drag. He's going to be Seth.
Yeah. I know. Okay. Oh man.
Yeah, it's an amazing cast based off this.
We need to. Okay, Bandit.
Yes.
Okay, so here's what we can do because we're at roughly two hours. So. Do we want to save the rest of the Spielberg movies maybe for another episode, and then go on to viewer questions? Do you want to do another Spielberg movie?
Yes, because the third one I was going to talk about was The Duel, but instead I want to give that to you as homework assignment because I'm really interested to hear what you say about this. And for all you guys out there listening, The Duel, it was the first Spielberg movie that he ever made. Because that did well, is how he got the job to do Jaws. And you can watch it. It's because it's such an old movie. It's on YouTube. Like the whole movie is there on YouTube. So you can just go over to YouTube and watch the movie. Just type in The Duel full movie and it'll be there. And especially for people who are like aspiring filmmakers, being able to see that knowing that Spielberg was like 20 years old or whatever when he made it is really amazing. And Spielberg himself has said he filmed it all in 12 days, which is phenomenal.
Okay.
And Spielberg himself has said that when he looks back at that he did that when he did, he said, if I had to do that today, he says, I couldn't do it. He said, even with all these resources at my disposal that I have now, if I had to do that again in 12 days, I couldn't do it. And he says it's just a testament that he was a different man then. He was a young guy. He was hungry for success, obsessed with getting this thing done. So it's really interesting. So I guess we don't bother talking about Jurassic Park.
I'll have to check out too. Yeah, I mean I do, but it's late. It's late here, and we still have your questions to do. Yeah,
we'll save it for a future.
We will touch on it another time. I promise.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, Bandit, let's talk about viewer questions.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, so for you guys that don't know, on Bandit's Twitter and Facebook, all at BanditIncorporated, he posts things on there sometimes right before we record, sometimes while we're recording, sometimes days before. He posts things asking, hey, ask any questions that we can answer on the podcast, and we will answer them on the podcast. So, from Facebook, because there are more Facebook than Twitter questions today, Juan Andrade asks, do you prefer to see a movie in Atmos or IMAX? Atmos, I think, is the Dolby Atmos.
I don't know what that is. What is it?
I think it's a sound. It's either sound or picture. Because my theater chain that I usually go to, they have this thing called AVX, which is basically not cheaper IMAX, but it's basically IMAX Lite. It's Diet IMAX, and so they have Dolby Atmos sound and all that. But no matter what, I will always go for an IMAX experience. Like, I don't know if you've seen a movie in IMAX before, but IMAX is something that you don't forget when you see it for the first time. IMAX is always the way to go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with IMAX, but I know you love seeing things on the big screen. You save stuff like on an iPad, you wouldn't want to watch it or whatever. I don't really care. Like, whether it's regular screen, IMAX, 3D, I don't really care. I just see whatever's the most convenient. I don't really have any preference. I'm like, whatever. It's the story that gets me, not the visual effects, so I don't really care.
Well, yeah, but visuals can really, like, okay, so think about Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the IMAX theater, 11 years old, watching that movie. I remember being there whenever Tom Cruise puts on his 3/4 length pants and his goggles, and he steps out, and suddenly the camera, like the aspect ratio, the whole screen is covered. It's in this super crisp HD. The sound changes. You could hear the wind. I feel like the wind's blowing in my ears. And the camera does this kind of perspective shot where it goes over Tom Cruise's head, and then it looks down. And I just went, oh my God. I've never forgotten being in that theater when that happens. Like, IMAX can do some great things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, in terms of giving perspective from height, that's pretty much all that's really useful for.
Really? That's all you I don't know, man.
The screen's a screen, you know? I mean, like, The Walk, I'm definitely going to see that in IMAX if I can, because the whole thing of it is when he's out on the wire, it's the height and all that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You don't think a movie shot in IMAX should be experienced that way? Like, if a movie is shot in IMAX?
I don't really think it matters.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know this about you, which is weird, because I'm usually someone that's all about the experience of being in the theater. Wow, that's... wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe that's why you're...
Like...
Okay, maybe that's why you're so for the Netflix thing. Yeah, okay, I can, wow.
That's why, yeah, like, if movies just, like Star Wars, I would probably want to see on the big screen. But, like, Bridge of Spies, if I could have just watched that at home, I would have.
Okay, wow. Hashtag perspective, okay. Okay, well, moving on, okay. Also on Facebook.
There's only one question on Twitter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keats Goodwin on Facebook asks, "What's a movie that's universally loved but you can't stand?" I think I know yours.
Yeah, mine are Gravity, Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Skyfall.
That really hurts.
Probably
That
others
hurts.
that I could, but I can't think of them right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are yours?
Okay. Well, I got Titanic, Return of the Jedi, Cars, Toy Story 2. I don't like Toy Story 2.
Yeah, none of them are that shocking except for Return of the Jedi. But even then, I still kind of understand.
Return of the Jedi just is such a downgrade. But have you seen the Toy Story movies?
Yeah, of course. Everyone's seen Toy Story.
Toy Story 2, like some people think Toy Story 2 is the best one. There's no way. Toy Story 2 is so boring. It's so slow. Nothing happens. Toy Story 2 is just... I don't like Toy Story 2. But yeah, those are probably some movies that come to mind I think of whenever someone's like, I don't hate Wizard of Oz, but it's just like a movie that I've seen, I guess. I don't praise it to be the masterpiece that it is.
Yeah.
But I saw Wizard of Oz and I was just like, okay, it's all right. Yeah. I can't believe you hated Skyfall. What is the matter with you? You like Terminator Genisys.
Yeah, that was just good fun.
Oh my
I didn't
God.
take it all that seriously. Skyfall's not supposed to be, that sort of fun. Not in Daniel Craig movies, and it isn't that kind of fun. It's just boring.
You think Skyfall's boring?
And it's badly written garbage, basically.
Bad. Okay. All right. Moving on. Now, what about that Twitter question? We'll ask the Twitter question.
Yes. The Twitter question is best movie time machine that's not the DeLorean.
Oh, the Time Turner from Harry Potter.
I haven't seen Harry Potter, actually.
I know. Okay. Well, in Harry Potter, in the third books and third movie, there's this device introduced called the Time Turner, which basically you turn it, and how many times you turn it, I think it's a specific interval that takes you back in time. But the way it works, it's like Back to the Future or whatever. Your past self still exists in that timeline. And it works. It's a really great plot device. It's a really great thing that helps keep the movie flowing. And so you kind of see the same movie twice, like the same second act twice, but that second act then becomes the third act, and it's done really well. It's the Time Turner from Harry Potter, is it for me? So check out Harry Potter 3 if you want to. It's great.
Sure.
Okay,
I think probably this is kind of a cheat, but because you can argue about whether or not it actually is a time machine, because maybe you can't class it as a machine. But my favorite time machine is actually the planet in Interstellar. Just like I know it's not as flashy as the DeLorean or the Doctor. Or
you mean the
TARDIS
water,
or anything like that?
The water planet.
Yeah, I just love that concept though. That there's this planet and time moves slower there, and just that whole thing, and it's more basis in reality. Yeah, I found that fascinating, of course, because it just takes the idea of, like, somebody said, we're all time travelers. We time travel every day, only in one direction, and only 1 second at a time. So we're all traveling forward in time, so that's possible.
But Bandit, that movie's stupid because love is the answer and love is stupid. Sorry, I was playing the internet for a second.
Okay, well, be quiet, internet.
No.
Even when he's inside that weird bookcase thing at the end, it's like he's not actually doing time travel there. He's sending gravity back through time. He's not actually going anywhere.
Which is a real thing. Like that's a thing that can be done theoretically, which is cool.
which I like.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Thinking outside the box. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that. Okay. Let's see. Let me think. Let's answer a couple more here since we're going through these kind of quickly. Huey come on guys. Huey R. Mendadas asked on Facebook, best YouTube movie channel. That's not your own.
That's tough because there's so many.
Oh yeah.
Look, I think probably the one I spend the most time on will be Nostalgia Critic. So I guess I'd have to say Nostalgia Critic. What do you think?
Well, this one is kind of a tricky one because because there's so many movie YouTube channels that do different things. Like check your channel like CinemaSins or Screen Junkies, you know, or you know, and then you get reviewers like Jeremy Johns, who's my favorite YouTube movie reviewer, or like Chris Stuckman, or
I thought your favorite was Christian Harloff from the Schmoes.
Yes,
Schmoes No.
We're getting to the Schmoes. That's my answer. My answer is the Schmoes Knows.
I keep beating you to the punch. I don't mean to. I'm
that's,
sorry.
Great minds think alike.
Yes,
you're
fine.
Right.
But that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember how I found everyone. I found the Schmoes through Jeremy Johns, who I found through Belated Media, who I found through Screen Junkies, who I found through CinemaSins. So, you know, this kind of chain that really led me, and the Schmoes, the Schmoes Know, youtube.com/Schmoes Know, they have this system of where they have created kind of like a Howard Stern kind of thing, where I don't know if you've ever checked out their channel, but they've done such a cool thing to where they've gone so far beyond their YouTube reviews, their movie reviews, to where they have a podcast. They have their own podcasting network to where, and they have, in which each podcast is individual characters and cast, and they've brought on people like Scott Mans from Access Hollywood and Alicia Malone from A Fellow Brit. Look up Alicia Malone, and you will not be disappointed. And I'm not going to tell you where she's from, but she's Australian. You will not be disappointed. Look up Alicia Malone.
Do you want me to do it now or later?
You can do it whenever you want, and you won't be disappointed. And you bring up, and she's brought people from just all over the movie space, and it's all kind of collected in the Schmoes Know, which was headed by Mark Ellis and Christian Harloff, who is my idol, the person I look to be like Christian Harloff, to create this network of people just talking movies. And that's my favorite YouTube channel. My favorite YouTube channel is probably Schmoes Know, but movie channel is Schmoes. Yes. Did you look her up?
Yeah, I got to hear.
Did you look her up?
I don't know, I have to scan through it for a while to find out exactly what it is you're talking about.
She's a big film buff. She's just like she's big on movies, and she's Australian and she's a ginger. So
the one
give you
with
something
the red hair. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. So if you ever want to know if there's another Australian out there that likes movies like you do, yes, there is. Her name's Alicia Malone.
Totally. Well, I like Nostalgia Critic because it's like he doesn't just do the nitpicking that so many channels do, including mine, but he also like through the skits and that he's able to sort of cover and communicate more sort of, at the risk of being pompous, more sort of intellectual kind of critiques of work, but in a way that's easy to understand. You know, and I'm trying to think of an example. Well, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Think about like the Ninja Turtles review. He wanted, like, his main point of that review was to get the point across
that's a good example,
that it wasn't as good as you thought it might have.
Yeah.
And so go from there if you want. Go ahead.
That's a good example. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Because he's communicating like all the nitpick that everyone has to say about Ninja Turtles, but at the same time he's also illustrating that the other stuff had things wrong with them as well, and he sort of rounds it all out with that talk about, you know what, it doesn't really matter. It's all just a matter of perspective. Then now everything's reinventing itself. It's not going to die out, and that's ultimately a good thing. And it's hard to find that level of like, it's sort of like multi-layered critiquing in a way. Plus, he's got some real funny moments.
Yeah, I remember. Do you remember your first Nostalgia Critic review?
Yep, I think it was Man of Steel, the crossover with Angry Joe.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think mine was Cat in the Hat. I was because Cat in the Hat has always been my guilty movie pleasure. Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat. Because I can think of 4 movies I remember seeing for the first. I remember being like my first movie going experience. It's the original Spider-Man, Shrek 2, Peter Pan, and Cat in the Hat. I remember those are the 4 movies I remember going to see when I was little. That and Spider-Man 2 if you want to go that far into it. So Cat in the Hat has always been like one of my guilty pleasures. That being said, I looked up Cat in the Hat review. I think I might have just clicked on it. and it was Nostalgia Critic, and the opening scene is like this little girl holding a little unicorn doll, and then this weird guy in glasses with a suit on and the tie grabs it and it's like glocks it in the head with a gun. I'm like, okay, I'm in. What is this? And then he goes through the whole movie and really just tears it to pieces. And I'm like, huh, that movie is terrible. and so I can see what you're saying. He really does. I think some reviews are better than others.
Yeah. Which is to be expected. Nobody
like,
can be on their A game all the time.
Exactly.
And sometimes he covers movies that he actually likes, but he has to tear them down. So you'd do that half-heartedly, but yeah.
I think some of my least favorite reviews were. I think my least favorite review of his recently was the Mad Max Fury Road review, just because, in my opinion, not because of the aesthetic, the whole skit thing was great. I think the skits was great, but I thought that they really didn't get across any kind of point in that review. I guess it was basically, at least from my guy, it was basically just kind of calm down. Like everyone needs to calm down in the movie. But like everyone that was claiming the feminazis and all that whatnot. Yeah. But we all kind of already knew that. We all kind of stopped taking them seriously after we saw Mad Max Fury Road. So
and I was a bit confused where he's like, no, wait, Fury Road is the greatest movie of all time because it's like the Roadrunner cartoon. And I was like, what? It's like, apart from being in the desert and having crazy contraptions, they've got nothing in common. And yeah, I see what you mean.
I can see where he's going and where he's like, it's so simplistic.
Yeah. But that's not because it's a Roadrunner cartoon. It's because it's Mad Max.
No. And Mad Max is anything. Mad Max is anything but simplistic. Fury Road is not as simple. It's simplistic plot wise and character wise, but what you're seeing on screen, to quote, I think Schmoes know, it's beautiful chaos. Yeah. There's so much happening on that screen, man.
And I think, but I know that's a movie that both he and his brother really enjoyed, so it didn't bother me that much. Yeah, because I'm like, I know they both love it. So
yeah, okay.
Although there's no way that anyone in their right mind can claim that Thunderdome is better than Road Warrior. Just saying.
Well, you like Terminator Genesis, so we can all have opinions.
Yes, because I don't live in the past and I accept something new as being new.
Even when it's terrible.
Even when it's good.
You know who said that?
Me?
The critics who liked Attack of the Clones. Well, if you compare it to the original trilogy, then yeah, it's gonna be terrible. But if you walk it at this movie... Well, like
we talked about last week that I cut out, but it will be on the channel. If China proves, if you look at it with objective eyes, it's a good movie. In your face. It broke box office records.
Well, thank you guys all for watching this episode of Movie
That's what we're talking about. It'll make sense when you see that video.
I can't do this right now.
Anyway,
it's too late.
There is one.
Okay, Bandit.
You mentioned one of the channels you mentioned was Belated Media. Going back to the Back to the Future Part 2, there's a scene in that where Marty McFly, he turns around, there's a movie theater, and it says Jaws 19.
I know where you're going with this.
And this big 3D shark comes out and bites him, and Marty McFly's like, the shark still looks fake. Which was a great bit. And on the screen it had directed by Max Spielberg. So I don't know whether Steven thought maybe he'd have a son directing movies by then or something. But yes, Belated Media on October 21st, 2015, the Back to the Future Day did a review of Jaws 19.
Probably the biggest middle finger to his audience he's ever done.
Really?
Probably a bigger middle finger than Red Letter Media's reaction to the Star Wars trailer.
Are you kidding me? You didn't enjoy it? I saw it and I was like, you clever dog. I was like, I wish I had thought of that. I would have made a video like that too.
The Jaws 19
Yes!
review?
Except I would have put in a product like sponsorship from the hoverboard or the Nike Power things or something.
Look, it's a great video. It's clever. It's crafty. It's well put together. But as a guy who never posts anything, at least anything that we want to see, like Belated Media, you're a great guy. Michael, you're a great guy, but we don't want to see your film talks. We don't give a care about your film talks. We want to see Revenge
of the Sith.
Not just that. We want to see your reviews. I like when you review movies. And so, you know, all these great movies have come out, like Fury Road and Inside. I don't know if he's done Inside Out, but he's like Steve Jobs. All these great movies, like indie movies that I know you're a big fan of. I know that you've seen. And you talk about how busy you are. You talk about how you don't have time to put these movies together and you have time to review them. So you take the time to, granted, make a great video, but at the same time, there's so many other things that everyone else wanted you to do, and you did Jaws 19. So I was a little upset when I first. It's funny video. It's a good video, but don't do that now.
Yeah. I know what you mean. And it's a little bit the same with Red Letter Media with the Plinkett reviews. They're like, oh, it's been 2 years since the last one. They're like, we're working on it, and I'm like, well, my channel's 2 years old. It's like, does it really take that long to make a Plinkett review? It shouldn't.
Yeah, that's. Speaking of it, have you seen the reaction to the third Star Wars trailer?
that did make me
Red Letter
laugh.
Media. I hated that so much.
I thought it was hilarious.
That's the equivalent of twiddling your thumbs and then walking out of the room.
Do you want to describe it for people who haven't seen the video? Okay,
so it's these guys sitting in the room. And they're just, and it looked like it's like cut from a live stream.
It says, it's like trailer reaction, Star Wars, blah blah blah, and the thumbnail is all of them crowded around the computer monitor.
Yeah, and so one guy's sitting there. He's like, "Hey, have you seen this guy? Whatever." And they all bring him down to the. It ends short points, or they're all sitting there like ready to start the trailer in 3, 2. And then, like in like a Sopranos style ending, it cuts to black, and then it's like 3 minutes of a black screen.
Well, I think the joke is because he's like, all right, I'm gonna press record on the thing, and it's already been recording all the stuff before. So he's like 3, 2, and then it goes black. Good joke, but I see what you're saying.
Good joke.
If they made that joke for a movie that we don't care about as much, would have been funny, but doing it for Star Wars, you wanted to hear their actual thoughts, or their actual reaction.
We haven't seen Plinkett talk Star Wars since the release of that first teaser, like last November, and so to see Red Letter Media go back, like, oh, maybe you're gonna talk about Star Wars, oh yeah, and then all we get is a black screen. It's a. I was not a fan, and I commented, and I get all the replies of like, you don't get the joke, you're stupid, you don't get. I get the joke, it's just not funny. I get the joke. I understand. Just try harder, okay? Because
Well, we were supposed to be talking about favorite YouTube channels, and we ended up just bashing a whole bunch of them.
That's true. Okay, so Bandit. Okay. I think it's time to end the episode, don't you?
Absolutely. So we covered most of the stuff.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. This is our episode talking all things Spielberg and the Star Wars Force Awakens trailer and all your guys' questions.
Next week we'll be covering. We don't know. We haven't decided yet.
What's coming out next week? Oh, you want to do horror movies?
I could, yeah. Well, actually, since it's 2 weeks away.
Well, that's kind of irrelevant because Halloween is this week.
Oh yeah.
I don't really know. I'm really.
You know what? Let's
ask the viewers what you want to do.
Decide now. Let's figure it out later.
Okay. Yeah. All right, we'll figure that out. Okay, so. Thank you all guys for watching. Another great episode of Movie Mania. Join us next week when we talk whatever it is we're talking about. Bandit, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as Bandit Incorporated. And they can find you.
They can find me at all things Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Podcast Media. More videos coming out soon. First thing out will be a video talking about the top 10 moments in the Star Wars trilogies. So,
yes, Trey was just saying off air that since he hasn't posted a video in a long time, he was thinking he might do one on Jaws 19 because it'd be really funny.
You can just get out. Goodbye, Bandit.
I apologize.
We'll see you all next week on Movie Maniacs. Goodbye.